What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ian Wendt Show. I have an awesome episode lined up for you guys today, and I'm really excited to have Aaron Wilburn here, who is one of 100 and how many?
120 in the world, give or take.
120 mastersmith, right?
Master Bladesmith.
Master Bladesmiths in the world. I thought it was the country. It's the world, which is insane, dude. That's awesome. So, before I have you kind of tell a little bit about your story and who you are and everything, we always do gifts first. So if you reach right over next to you, you got some stuff in that bag, and I'll walk you through what's in there.
Sweet.
So that's the camouflage Patriot hat. I figured you might like that one.
That's pretty cool.
That's all right?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite
on my bald
ones.
head right now?
Oh, you don't have to, no. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Don't feel like you have to, dude.
Well, I got a little bit of sun on my head, so
Yeah. No, you don't have to wear
that's
it.
cool. Oh, awesome, dude.
But that's been one of our best sellers ever since we dropped it like 4 years ago. So I own a company, Official Patriot Gear. That's my main thing. And we just do, patriotic apparel. The whole purpose of it, though, is to remind people patriotism is not partisan. It's not an exclusive thing. Red, white, black, blue, green, gay, straight, Christian, atheist, I don't freaking care. You love the country, you love the people, you're a patriot, right?
Yeah.
We got to get back to that common sense feeling. So that's what we've been trying to do with this brand. But yeah, man, so that's
American heritage, right?
right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the first one. There's a few other things in there for you. So that's the OG Patriot tee. That's the first t-shirt I ever made. Basically started off the entire company, man. Just kind of on a whim. I mean, I never meant to start all this. Long story short, because I've told it so many times, I basically just made that t-shirt and thought it would be cool if we could get some of these people that are doing, all these, they were raising money for businesses through my platform during COVID. They were, supporting veteran organizations, anti-child trafficking, all this cool stuff. And I was like, maybe we can get a few people to wear this shirt and represent kind of what that is. And it just took off. So that's the first one. So
Nice.
That's the OG. You got to have the OG.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right.
What?
So that's a mag from our mag club. So every month we do a different mag, t-shirt, sticker, and card that has something to do with our country's history that month. So that was the Boston Massacre.
I see.
And I want to say it was May. Maybe not though. April. I think it was April. And yeah, dude, it's pretty cool. It's kind of like another one of my creative outlets where I've been able to, because I'm a big history buff. And so being able to kind of dive into that. We also do like pop culture stuff, so we'll do we did a Halloween mag for October where it was just the Halloween mask, and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what that is.
Awesome, man. That'd
Yeah.
go right with my AR.
Yeah. I figured you had one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Meat stick, First Form meat stick, man. Tastes amazing. Awesome source of protein. And First Form's a big, big piece of my life. And I've been a part of that organization for a really long time. So I like to hook people up with their products because it's awesome.
Yeah, nice. Breakfast sausage.
Yeah,
That's gonna
buddy.
Go down good.
Yep.
And then what do we got here? Oh, nothing. That was it.
Yeah, I think that was it. And then, so right next to you though, that's the finale right there. That's the Screamin' Freedom energy drink, Form Energy. So same company, First Form. They just launched their brand new line of energy drinks, and dude, they're so good. They just partnered with Anheuser-Busch, and so it's like everywhere in the country now. I don't think they're in Rexburg yet, except for here, but they're coming. But try it, dude. If you like energy drinks.
This is the second time I've ever had a sip of an energy drink.
No way.
The second time.
Okay, so what
It's
do you
good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's good.
Give it a review. What do you think? Out of 10.
It's, I'm not into. I don't know what to base it on. But the ones I had,
I guess that's true. You've only had 2 times,
Yeah,
so
2
that'd be hard.
times,
But it tastes good.
Tastes good.
Well, there you go. Yeah, dude, they're super super tasty. They have a few different flavors, but anyway, yeah, that's just kind of my way of saying thanks for coming on, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and tell us some stories.
yeah, no, I appreciate being interviewed and talking about my history in knife making, and hopefully this is something that can inspire somebody else to reach out and develop a craft that's really kind of like a lost art.
Yeah. And I think that's more of what, because the truth is, I think there's probably going to be a very small percentage of people that really know a lot about knives, right? But I think where you're going to be able to add a lot of value is just your story is incredible and how you kind of got started and what you've done throughout your life. And I think that's going to be, it's like you just said, there's too many people now that I feel like want to start something. They have the desire to start something, but they just never do out of fear or whatever else it may be. And I feel like you're an example of somebody who is like, I want to do this, and you did it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that. So let's just go right there. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Just some current things, and then let's talk about your past. Let's talk about how you really got into this. Your story.
Well, I'm a master bladesmith. I make knives for a living, and I've been doing it full time since 2012. Really, 2013 is when I went completely full time. That's when I became a master smith. And to get those credentials, the stamp of a master smith, it's kind of a process to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so you join the American Bladesmith Society. It's a kind of an organization that they have a standardized level of what they expect from the makers. Mm-hmm. And it's an educational program as well, because you can go to different hammer-ins. They have a school down in Washington, Arkansas that teaches classes. And so when you invest in yourself, you're investing into your education.
Yep.
And that is something that really nobody can take from you. And you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And so I've always been kind of a, you either sink or swim type of guy.
Uh-huh.
And ever since I was young, I guess we'll get into that a little later. But once I joined the American Bladesmith Society, you have to wait 3 years or serve an apprenticeship, so to speak, before you can test to become a journeyman. And the journeyman is a performance test. So you have to have a knife. You make a knife that's 10 inches long, the blade. It has to be able to chop through a 2x4 twice. It has to be able to, you just hack through a 2x4.
Twice, just two 2x4s. Oh, okay.
You hack through the two 2x4s.
I was going to say, holy crap.
No,
that's a sharp knife.
It may take you a long time.
Okay.
The guy that tested me, he gave me it was a 2x6, and I had to cut through that thing twice because that's what he had.
Yeah.
It was old, hard, and gray from sitting out in his backyard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was gnarly to cut through it. But you do that, and then you have to be able to cut the last 6 inches of a free-hanging 1-inch manila rope. One cut. It has to be clean after you cut through the 2x4.
Wow.
Then it has to be able to shave hair.
Okay.
And then you have to put it in a vise, about 2 or 3 inches of the blade, and then bend it 90 degrees. And usually you have to put a pipe over the handle to bend the blade.
Huh.
And you can have a crack in the blade, but it can be less than a third of an inch or a third of the way through the blade. But then that blade has to survive being bent 90 degrees. And sometimes it'll rebound back. And really, the correct way to do it is you want it to be like the limb of a bow, where it can bend but yet come back a little bit.
Yeah.
Not just fold over like an L.
Right.
And so once you do that performance test, then that qualifies you to go to Atlanta or to a blade show and submit to a panel of iconic judges, really, 5 knives that you've made to the best quality you can. They can't all be identical, but they could be similar and close.
So doing all of that just makes you able to apply for mastersmith. Basically.
Oh, that makes you apply to be a journeyman.
Oh, that you're not even close to, okay.
No, we're a couple years away from that still.
Holy crap. So 3 years to become a journeyman.
To become a journeyman, yeah.
Wow.
If you take a class from the American Bladesmith Society they may put it on someplace, like maybe it's in Arkansas at their school.
Yeah.
And they may sanction some other classes. I don't know where they have those at, right now. But if you do that, then it can knock a year off your waiting list. So it's not, and the thing about it is to submit that test, that performance test, and those knives to a panel of judges to judge, you get 3 chances in your lifetime. So you don't want to mess up your chances. You bring your best work.
Wow.
And once they look at that, and it has to be plain steel, wood handles, whatever, but it just has to aesthetically look right.
Right.
And they say they don't have to be perfect, but that's a lie.
They have to be perfect.
They have to be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not going to get away with anything. You'll fail.
Right.
And so they want to keep the standard high. That's why it's difficult. But in a year, there'll be 15 to 20 guys that'll pass journeyman. But from those guys, that group, there may be one that becomes a master. So like the year that I became a journeyman, it was 2010, there was 4 of us that became master smiths. There was Kyle Royer, Mike Quisenberry, David Lish, and myself. And the year that I became a master smith was in 2013. So I'd waited 3 years because of, you think about what it takes to do this. You have to have a financial investment. Like my knives are probably, the ones I submitted, they were $3,000 to $5,000 a piece for my master smith. So I couldn't sell those knives. I had to make them and then hang on to them.
Right.
So there's a financial commitment, an investment to be able to go do this. So if you do this, you want to make sure that you're bringing the best game you can.
So you're saying each knife cost you $3,000 to $5,000 to make?
No, that's what they would sell.
Or that's what they would sell for.
But I may have a week or two in each knife.
Yeah. You're talking investment of time.
Yeah, time. And I'm not selling them. I have no income. You have to be able to float it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there's a performance test with becoming a master smith. It's the same test. You have to chop through the wood. You have to cut the last 6 inches of a 1-inch free hanging manila rope, shave, and then bend it in half.
Yep.
But it has to be a Damascus blade. So 320 layers. So it's Damascus you make yourself. You have to forge it, all that stuff.
So what's the difference between, okay, so this is something that probably I definitely don't understand. I bet you most people don't. What is the difference between a Damascus blade and like just another blade?
Well, plain steel, like for a journeyman, it could be whatever, 5160, 52100, 1084. It's whatever carbon steel or stainless or whatever you want to submit. Okay. It just has to be plain. There's no fancy Damascus, or the technical term is pattern welded steel.
Okay.
So it's just two different steels that you're going to stack and layer and then forge weld together.
That's what Damascus means.
Yeah, that's just a common name because of the area it came through. Damascus shotgun barrels, and they used to have, in the old world, that's what they made.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of kept that name. But
okay.
The technical name, that you'll have guys that'll lose their hair over this, that it's pattern welded steel. That's a technical name. It's pattern welded steel.
Okay. But
we call it commonly, it's just known as Damascus. So don't lose your mind if somebody says, Damascus or whatever. It's just a reference to that pattern welded steel. So when you become a master smith, you have to submit that performance knife, 10-inch blade, all that stuff, with the same performance test. And once you submit that, then pass, then now you're qualified to submit to a panel of judges 5 knives. And you don't make 5 knives, you make 6.
Just in case.
Ooh, man, just in
case.
Have
that extra.
Little scratch, somebody dropped the tip, something happens.
Yeah.
It is such an ordeal. I mean, I've seen guys that have not passed, that come out of the master smith room when they were told, yeah, you're not passed. Man, just crying.
Destroyed.
Oh, totally.
And you get 3 chances.
In a lifetime.
Why is that? Just because it's so prestigious?
Because it's that. They have a high standard. They don't want you just every year you're going to come and submit. You bring the best.
Yeah.
And the icons, these guys are, the guys that I learned from, and also that were my judges, that when they go in and judge and tell you, hey, this is not right or this could be better, listen, because that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Being taught at that level by those guys.
So how many times did you submit?
Once. Yeah, no,
Wow.
I won. What happened was there was 4 guys that put in, and at the very last second, 2 guys pulled their knives. They're like, yeah, we're not ready.
Huh.
So they did all that work and we're like, yeah, this ain't going to happen. So they took them off the table.
Just knew.
They knew.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
It's better to just realize it than, so does that still count as a submission for them?
No.
Okay.
No, because they weren't judged. So they passed the performance test is still good. You know what? I shouldn't say that. I think it's only good for 6 months. It could be good for a year. Then you have to do another performance test.
Okay.
But I could be wrong on that. But I know that as far as submitting those knives to be judged by a panel, it is once a year. So you'd have to, if you missed this, like, if they have another show in Texas or something, whether and they're going to be judging there.
Yeah.
I don't think you can take it there. You got to wait a year
before
you can resubmit. Yeah. I mean, it's prestigious. It's not a lot of guys are master smiths because of what it takes to become one. So like I said, if you have a class of journeymen, there may be 15 or 20 that become journeymen. Out of that class, there may be 1 that moves on to become a master smith.
Wow. So so once you become a journeyman, once you're accepted as a journeyman, then what?
The 2-year wait.
Minimum
2-year wait. And then because they want you to, you're not just going to submit and then next year I'm going to submit again.
Yeah.
They want you to get a little knowledge and time under your belt. They have a certain standard.
Yeah.
And they don't play. I mean, we want the best. And so in that time, now all of those knives you can submit, they could be plain steel.
Right.
Personally, I wouldn't do that. I would make some of the most badass Damascus you can make, and then you submit that.
And when you say that, just forgive me for being ignorant. Is it like you pick and choose different types of steel and things that are Like, does it come down to color? Does it come down to weight? Does it come down, like, how do you choose when you say badass Damascus? What does that mean?
Well, different pattern welded steel is going to, like, I like to make mosaics. So you can make mosaic, a feather, twisted, ladder, raindrop.
You're literally making that pattern.
You make all everything.
Okay.
And should have brought some, but I think you can post some of my stuff.
Yeah. No, I'll get some like video clips and pictures and stuff from you, and I'll kind of like embed them into the video. We'll have Clark do that, so that way people can actually see it as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd love to come down and see him anyway, dude.
Oh yeah,
I gotta see him.
I got some awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So the stuff I did for, like, I made a feather pattern, 10-inch blade. One knife to become a master smith you have to make is going to be a Quillian dagger. So it has the quills like a guard for sword fighting.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And then you have a 10-inch blade.
Yeah.
And then a fluted, twisted handle with wire inlay that you make yourself.
Wow.
So it's pretty ornate. And for most guys, my Quillian dagger was the first one I ever made. So it was. And
you love making these. I can just tell, dude. This is like your thing.
Well, you know what I tell everybody?
There's nothing better.
If I couldn't make money doing this, I would do something for money, and I would still make.
You would still make knives.
Yeah. When I get ready to retire, you know what I'm going to do?
You're going to make more knives.
I'm going to make knives.
There's something about that passion, man. Like I feel like that's, not to go off on a tangent, but I have the worst ADHD in the world, bro. But like, I just feel like the world in a lot of ways lacks that passion of, and dude, I'm even speaking for myself, because prior to building my business, I snowboarded for years. And I mean, dude, I was an absolute snowboard junkie. Like, I'd be up 3-4 days a week. I have no idea how I graduated college. No clue. I have no idea how I got a degree. But I was literally up there 3-4 days a week. We would hike 10 times before the lifts even opened. Like, it was kind of part of my life, right? As much as it could be. And I haven't been able to do it nearly as much since. And so that's why I say, like, I'm even kind of guilty of it, where that passion that I had I've kind of allowed it to die down a little bit. And it's just interesting to me because I've only met a few people like you where it's like you can just tell that passion is never died down. Like, it's there and it's not going anywhere, and it's still just as strong as it was, if not stronger than the first day, which I admire. I think that's awesome because, like I said, we could use more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I nurture my passion too. It's not like I'm physical. Actually, I work out, do CrossFit, I do all that because I want to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's probably pretty physically taxing.
Oh, it can be. Yeah. When I'm swinging a hammer, man, my forearms look like Popeyes.
Look at these things, dude.
Yeah,
look at these things. Yeah.
That's from swinging a hammer.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll forge, even if I have knives that people want or stuff I'm supposed to do. If I get a hair at my rear, I'm going to forge today and just make Damascus, or that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because it's just, for me, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And it's like therapy too,
Yeah.
There's a lot in this world that tears us down. And if we can do something that cultivates that passion, that, it is like therapy. It can kind of sometimes shut the noise from outside out.
Yeah.
And I can concentrate on doing something. And it's just, I can't even describe the creativity that I'm able to have in making these things. Cause sometimes it is a little bit of the swag technique. You ever heard about that?
No.
It's the scientific wild ass guess as to what's going to happen.
I've never heard of that.
Well, I use that sometimes. I kind of know what I'm going to have as a pattern, but once I'm able to fold a steel and reforge it, and
it might become something else.
Well, no, in my mind, I know what I'm going to do, but I'm always so pleasantly surprised when I make my pattern. I'm like, oh wow, that really came out better than I thought it was.
Got it.
So it's not like paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of artistry involved with making the Damascus. In fact, I go back to Ohio next month. No, in August, and that's what I'm going to teach. I'm on 3 days. I'm going to teach. I don't know how big the crowds are going to be, but it's a big hammer in. And that's what I'm teaching is Damascus, how to make, pattern welded steel, whether it's going to be mosaic or twisted or Turkish twist or whatever,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think as I was like thinking about the passion thing, I think my passion for snowboarding was kind of, to be honest, it was kind of replaced with passion for lifting. I mean, cause that's been that's what I do besides business and everything else. It's gone to that. But so sorry, I cut you off a little bit. Go back to, when you made this, what did you call it again? What kind of knife was it?
Quillian.
Yeah, the quill. Yeah. So keep talking about that because that was crazy.
I've made a few of them since then, but really there, and especially when I did that in 2013, there wasn't a lot of picture references on what are we talking about, a Quillian dagger, and they didn't have much. They didn't have much American Bladesmith Society available too. There was a few patterns of different masters.
Are we talking like Prince of Persia style knife? Like, is that
it's that type of look.
Yeah, like Arabian kind of.
It's got to be ornate.
Yeah,
the handle's got to be fluted and twisted, and then I have to take 2 strands of wire and I spin it and I make my own wire. Wow. And then I use that in the inlay in the handle. So it can be as ornate as you want it, but however you make it, it has to be precise and right.
How long does that take?
Oh my gosh, I had 2 weeks at least into my Quillian dagger.
And when you say 2 weeks, like how
40 hours a week at least.
Wow.
Maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So yeah, it's at least that. Because people ask me all the time, how long does it take you to make a knife? It's like, well,
depends on what knife you're making.
Well, that and too, and when I make like a billet for Damascus, I could have 30 hours in that billet, but I'm not making just one billet. A billet would be a bar of the Damascus.
Yep.
I'll take a slice off that, and then I'll forge that into a blade.
Okay.
And then that blade, once I forge it, then I got to grind it, heat treat it, and there's a bunch, hand sanding, and there's a bunch that goes into it.
It's so interesting.
It is.
It's fascinating. Do you ever tell stories with your knives?
There could be with them. I don't. Like a lot of people like to name whatever type of knife style they make or whatever.
Well, like you said, because you said that you would take the piece of Damascus and you'd cut it and you'd make a knife out of that, and then like correct me if I'm wrong, but what I feel like I'm understanding is you could basically create multiple knives out of that one. What did you call it again? The
billet.
The billet.
Yeah. So like, say if I have a mosaic,
yeah,
I can cut it up into tiles, and the way I stack it, and I can forge out. Maybe I'll get 4 to 5 blades out of a 20-pound bar.
Wow.
So I just made a Turkish twist a few months ago. I've been filming it. I got a YouTube channel and it shows how I make it. But
we're gonna have to grab that video and show.
Oh, it is awesome. It's a 10-pound. I mean, I weigh it. So
it's 10 pounds.
The steel.
Holy
crap. The steel that I start with is 10 pounds. So once I forge it out and I draw it out into bars, then I take those 5/8 inch bars or a foot long and I spin them.
Yeah.
So I twist them, 3 of them left. I twist 3 of them right. And then I take those bars and I put them together and I squeeze them together. By the time everything's said and done, I got 1 blade out of that 10-pound bar.
Wow.
And it weighed about 14 ounces, I guess. It was a big 11-inch buoy. And if you can, post it and show what that looks like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of waste. I mean, you think about 92% or whatever it was ended up on the shop floor, ground away.
Yeah.
For that particular
You're
pattern.
picking that up and using it again.
No, you can't.
Oh, you can't.
It's gone. That metal's
really?
It's gone. Yeah. So it's just, it's $100 worth of steel and I got 1 blade out of it. Versus if I make a 20-pound bar, which I do all the time, I'll make big mosaic billets. I have a huge hammer. It came off a battleship, was decommissioned battleship.
Dude,
cool.
I was going to say, man, I mean, like, you legitimately look like you'd be like the freaking Viking from the olden days. Like, all you need is a longer beard with, like, the freaking, like, the twisty ties in it and everything. And
it's getting there. I'm gonna be braiding it.
Do it, dude. Braid
beads.
it up. Yeah, braid it up. I can just picture you holding this big old, like, Thor-ass hammer in your hand. Yeah. It's awesome,
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome. It's actually so cool. So the reason why I asked you if you tell stories is because this is just kind of how my brain works. But I'm like, immediately I just started thinking, okay, if you have like 4 or 5 knives, I wonder if there's a way to use the metal or use the different steel or whatever to kind of tell some different story. You could almost have like a sequence of events in each of the knives or something like that. It's just how my brain works. I don't know.
Well, I actually do have one coming up that I'm going to make a video on. It's going to have a story with it.
Cool.
So last year I was able to make a knife and donated it to Heroes Defense.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And they got another one that's bridge to towers. So
yeah. Tunnels and towers, right?
Tunnels to towers.
Tunnels to towers and tunnels, something like that. The 9/11 thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's tunnels and towers or something like that. I don't know. We've donated a couple times to them too.
Well, they reached out to me again, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Get me a chunk of the Twin Towers, a piece of the steel.
No way.
And so he called me and said, dude, I got it. I was like, okay, give it to me in time. I'm going to make a video of it, of me forging that into steel that I'm going to make into a blade that I'm either going to make a kitchen knife or I'm going to make, a hunting knife or a buoy or something cool that I'll donate to the fund because it goes into buying, really, it's supporting our firefighters and the safety equipment for them.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make a video of this showing how I can incorporate some of the steel from the Twin Towers into this blade.
So the one I'm thinking of, it might be a different one I'm thinking of, because Tunnels to Towers is, I think that's what it's called. And that one actually is, it's for firefighters, but it's mainly for the after effects of the families and so the people that died, the firefighters and the police that died, it takes care of their families. And it also takes care of current firefighters and police officers that are still dealing with like chemical issues and cancers and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's interesting because you look at that, there was like, the last time I did research on it, there was like 15,000 people that were affected.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm from upstate New York. So
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So I knew people in the towers. I literally have, my best friend's dad was on the 80-something floor of the second building.
Wow.
No, he made it out.
Oh, did he? Get
crazy story. But yeah, he made it out, but I knew a lot of other people. I knew police officers, I knew firefighters. I mean, I was young, I can't even remember how old I was now, and I don't even want to do math, but I'll never forget, I was in like 5th period science class, and it just came over the loudspeaker, and we had no idea what was going on. Everybody's running around, parents are picking up kids. I mean, nobody really understood what was going on at all. And to this day, like for the first couple weeks, we didn't have TV growing up. So I grew up not poor, but like, pretty lower class. I mean, we had what we needed, but we definitely didn't have a lot of things we wanted.
You and me both.
Yeah. And one of those things was we didn't have TV. It wasn't just because we didn't have the money to pay for it. It was also because my parents were smart. But so like to this day, for the first couple weeks, I didn't even see the footage. I didn't see it and somehow, like, I'm everybody's favorite conspiracy theorist. It all started with 9/11, dude. When I first dug into the 9/11 stuff and I really started to figure out like, oh yeah, this was 100% an inside job. Like, that's not even a question about it. That one, people can say all they want, dude. There is no way that sucker's coming down in its footprint with a plane. I don't care. Like, and there's so many other things. We don't have to go into that. That'll be a whole other podcast. But
build number 7.
Oh yeah, and the passport that just miraculously made its way down to the ground on the
Yeah.
Anyway, and the $2 trillion deficit that got wiped out from the Pentagon, that the plane supposedly flew perfectly horizontal into the building, but there was no fuselage. Do you know about that, right? The Pentagon thing?
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible that there was no piece of plane there. What's even more incredible is the fact that they convinced the American public that it happened. That people actually watched that, and there's no footage. It's just this big gaping hole, and it's literally like on the ground level. Like you'd have to fly that thing and then swoop in straight through, and it's like, you have people that are watching it and saying, yeah. And those are the same people that years and years later wore a mask because they were afraid of the air. So here we are.
Come on, Ian. Let's be real here. Our government would never lie to us.
Never, dude. So. Of course not. No, of course not. Oh man, that'll be, let's get into that in a minute. But anyway, so I'm from upstate New York. So dude, as you're talking about that, will you be able to make multiple knives with that?
I probably will. Hopefully I'll have enough material. Depends what they give me.
I mean, dude, I would take a keychain. Oh, keychain knife. I would love to have.
We'll make little necklaces from the Damascus or something.
Dude,
I'm not going to let any of it go to waste. I'm going to use.
And I'll pay for it.
Oh, dude, don't. Please,
I would love, dude. That would be so cool to have. Like, that's what I mean by a story, right?
Yeah.
That tells a story.
Yeah.
It would be so cool to have something like that. Like that to me is.
Yeah, I'm going to document it because, I'm kind of passionate about that whole thing. And, when I was getting back to it, the people that were injured from cancers or whatever, it's like 15,000 it was high. The number's high.
It's not only that, and that's just the ones they know of.
Well,
that's not all the people who are affected after.
You look at how many people were affected at the Pentagon. Do you know how many were?
Actually, no. How
0.
Many? Yeah. Okay. Well, I could have guessed
because they had the right equipment. It was a military base. The people that responded to help.
Yeah.
Had all the proper gear. And so you don't. Well,
and didn't they not find any bodies or anything either?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't searched all that.
I thought they evacuated it.
But yeah, well, they did. You got everybody out. But the thing about it is the proper gear saved lives.
Yeah.
Even afterwards.
Yeah.
And so you have all these people and firefighters, different ones that they just went in there covered in dust and they're breathing all that stuff. And they ended up with lung injuries and what have you. And so, I felt pretty good about, like, if I make this knife like I did last year, and they're able to take those funds and they can help a department or whatever they're using it for, what a little contribution I gave.
No, dude, that's so cool.
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
that's seriously one of the coolest gifts I bet you they're going to get.
Yeah. It was pretty popular last year. It sold for a lot of money. And
I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know you could use, I mean, I guess it makes sense. So you could use steel from the building and make, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I'll forge it into the blade and it'll be part of it.
Will the color remain like it is?
No.
Or will you have to color it out?
Well, I'll use different contrasting steels. So when I make Damascus, I'll use a high carbon. They're all high carbon, but one of the steels I use has 3% nickel. So the nickel resists the acid when you dip it in acid, and the acid eats away the steel and it reveals the pattern. And then you can put it in coffee, or there's other solutions you could put it into that makes the darker steel dark and the lighter steel light. So when you show that, what a Damascus blade might look like, that's what the pattern. They're both high carbon steel, but one of them has 3% nickel.
You're gonna have to send me those videos when you're making that.
Oh, that'd be cool, huh?
Dude. Just text them to me, and I'll share them on my page and everything, because that's awesome. I mean, even if you know nothing about knives, that's such a cool thing to witness. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I feel good about making it. It's like, hopefully they'll sell it, they'll make some good money on it, and some fire department will get something out of it, whether it be jaws of life that they couldn't afford, or they're contributing to, or help a family out, or whatever it is. It's least thing I could do.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it. And I mean, there's nothing better than that, dude. There really isn't. Out of all the things that I've been able to do, some really cool things over the last 5 years. Ever since I decided to use my platform for what I did, and I've been fortunate enough to meet some really cool people and, build some influence, and I've done some awesome, fun things. But by far, the most rewarding things have always been when I've been able to use my platform and use the resources that I have, or, be able to activate my following and my community to raise money for other businesses and do things like that. Like, there's nothing like that. And when you have the ability to do it, I think it becomes addicting, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you're like, if I could do this for the rest of my life, I would do it. Just philanthropy forever.
Oh, it feels good, doesn't it?
It's great.
And I've given chef's knives out and stuff like that to graduates and, culinary schools and Michelin star stuff. And I mean, it is nice. It's cool.
That's awesome.
I feel better about this.
Yeah.
About contributing something that has meaning to it.
Yeah, for sure. So up until then, what would you say is the coolest gift you've ever given?
Oh my gosh, it would have to be. There was 100 chefs that graduated, and they were selected, whatever the best one, and one of my knives was the prize to give, and that felt pretty good.
That's awesome. Have you ever tried to get it on one of those like TV shows or something as an award or something like that?
Well, no, it's like, think about Forged in Fire. They have been asking me, oh my gosh, since they began.
Really?
Oh,
You turn it down?
Every year, yeah.
How come?
I was a mastersmith. There was nothing to gain. I told them, I've interviewed to be a judge. I've interviewed to I was like, they were going to launch another show. So I did the Skype interview, and I was like, look, let's get some skilled guys together.
Yeah.
And you're just showing guys that, they want to make knives in their backyard, and they come in, swing, and have no idea what they're doing. And it's staged drama, and people love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. And I may go on the show this year. We'll
really?
See. Yeah, but they've asked me at least 15 times.
Huh.
And, and I told them, I see other mastersmiths get on there. And I was like, man, just put us all together and let us make some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because people would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it would be too next level, or it's hard to, we did a little promo, and they have to sell it to the
production
to the
company
studios,
Yeah, studio. Yep.
And they have to be able to pick it up and see a pilot and go with it. And so I get it. I mean, it's harder to do. And that's kind of around that time where, Joe Rogan started following me, and, stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
I heard Rocky told me you gave one to Joe.
Yeah, I got like 1,700,000 views of Kitchen. I sent him another one. Well, what happened was, my son, Joe and I were talking, but I had just finished remodeling.
How'd you meet Joe? Just because
he started following me and just wrote me, dude, I'd love to
just
get
on
one
Instagram or something?
Yeah, on Instagram.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so that was
That's
back
cool.
in, I'm going to say that was 2013.
I remember Rocky telling me about that. And I actually, it's interesting because I actually remember Joe talking about the knife. I didn't know it was you guys because I listen to Joe all the time. There's a couple podcasts I listen to. He's the top one. And I remember seeing it, and Yeah, I forgot. Rocky told me about that when we met. So that's crazy. What? Yeah.
Well, what happened was, we were talking and, oh, dude, I'll buy it. I was like, no, I want to give you one. But I'm already busy, man. I couldn't.
That's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah, I couldn't take a Rogan bump. I couldn't. And I was remodeling a house.
The Rogan bump.
Yeah. And had a new shop and I got out of worrying about that. I was slammed.
But you did, obviously, because he got one.
Well, that's because my son, Rocky.
So Rocky said that.
He got into my social media. And
he was like, screw you, Dad. I'm sending this thing.
Well, he gets on my social media. He comes into me. He's like, what the heck is this? You got Joe Rogan following you. You guys have a history of conversation. I was like, oh, yeah, but I'm busy. What do to me,
that's awesome, dude.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of, I've made knives for the Prince of Saudi Arabia.
No way.
Yeah.
Like the freaking, what do they call those again?
Oh, yeah, buoy. No, I didn't make a quilling. I made a buoy.
It wasn't a quilling? Oh,
no, it was a nice, big, beautiful buoy for the guy. But
that's
through
awesome.
handlers, he contacted me and I dealt with his main handler, his guy.
How did they find you?
I guess.
There's 130 of you, so I guess
it's not that hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm in my own world. When I don't really go to shows or I do shows anymore, I'm going to start doing more. Last show I did was 2019 Blade show, and I got best in show and best buoy. It was, I sell, my stuff sells. So it costs a lot of money to go to a show.
Well, dude, you have someone like Joe Rogan picking up one of your knives. That's a big deal because he's also not just because it's not like you're just sending him a random gift and he's like, okay, cool. It's like, no, this guy like deals in knives and he deals in this kind of stuff. So it's like he knows what he's doing, and the fact that he would shout you out and be like and recognize the quality of it and everything.
Well, here's something funny is the first knife I sent him, I told him don't post it.
I did. And you know what though? Honestly, I bet you that meant more to him than anything else because you said don't post it.
Well,
because that just shows why you're actually giving it to him.
He was going on a hunt, and I was like, dude, I'm going to get you this. Sorry, I said it's taken so long, but I moved to California to Idaho, and
yeah,
it's been a bit. He was like, dude, I've been wanting one of your knives for so long, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to send you one. Don't post it. This is just between us. And then he posted it anyway, but I sent it to him like in March, and then he posted on Christmas Day.
And you got the Joe on Christmas.
On Christmas Day,
you definitely got the Joe Rogan bump.
I had to make 20 of those dang things.
Oh my gosh,
dude!
Dude.
I appreciate it, but it's like,
how much did each of those go for?
Oh, $1,000 or $900 or something.
Okay,
but it's not that. It's
the time that it takes.
Well, even the time. A knife's a knife. Money's money, but I didn't want to make 20 of them.
Yeah, you wanted it to be like special for him.
Well, no, it's yes and no, but I don't take orders.
Okay.
I make what I want to make.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a artsy fartsy dude. I think it goes down to passion. It is it's
more about the passion.
If somebody says they try to corral me, I want this with this, and this, I'm like,
yeah,
good luck. Go find somebody.
Yeah, because then it becomes more about you're just a conveyor belt of something that's not special.
Yeah, I'm like a marionette. They're going to stick their hand up my rear and move my fingers and have me make.
I don't
whatever.
do well with people telling me what to do either.
Oh, I can't.
I totally understand.
I won't. So what I do is I'll take recommendations. If you want 10-inch feather Damascus buoy, no problem. I don't take deposits. I'm not going to give you a timeline. I'll make it. If you like it, buy it. If you don't worry. Next guy will.
Yeah.
So in that way, it keeps it fresh for me. I hate that feeling like somebody will I'll send you money. I'm like, no, I don't want anybody to send me money.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until I'm done. And then if you like it, buy it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, like I said, don't worry. It'll go.
Yeah.
So in that way, it keeps it fresh for me because I want to be able to make the best I can and do what I can do. And it's hard for me to read what somebody's thinking they want.
Yeah, well, and it also comes down to, I preach this from the rooftops, dude. If there's one thing that I think is probably the most important piece of advice I've ever gotten, one of them, it's you add value and then you negotiate. Too much of the world works off of the opposite. They try to negotiate before the value's added. That's exactly what you're talking about. Because the thing is, if you add enough value, you can negotiate anything you want.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you show that knife, if it's next level, like you're going to be able to charge anything you want and they're going to pay it. And I think there's a difference obviously in the mindset there compared to someone who's just like, yeah, pay me $500, I'll make you a knife. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No. We're going to take my time. We're going to take my quality, and then I'm going to tell you how much it costs, and you're going to pay it because it's that good.
And if you don't, that's okay.
Someone else will.
The next guy that's chomping at the bit to get one of my knives will. Like I made a Skinner. I love hunting. I love making Skinners, and that was one of the hardest things when I was younger. Is where do you find a good knife? Mm-hmm. I'd always, if I was going to skin a bear or deer or whatever, I'd have 4 or 5 knives with me.
Yeah,
because they get dull.
Yeah.
I just had a guy wrote me. I just posted on my Instagram. He says, "Dude, I want a knife like the one you just posted. Make me one like this. The last one you sent me." He says, "I did 3 deer in wherever he was, and then he did also a pig in Texas." He goes, "And at the end of the pig, he goes, I could still shave hair with it." I was like, "Well, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah,
that's good."
Yeah.
So, and same thing, the guy that I shoot traditional archery, and the guy that makes my bows, I traded him a knife for a bow, and $1,000 bows.
Yeah.
He shot a 5x5 bull in Oregon. He shot a Kansas 5x5 whitetail. And then he shot a bear in Washington. And he says at the end of the bear, he goes, and usually he goes, I had 4 or 5 knives every time I do an animal.
Yep.
He goes, at the end of the bear, he goes, that thing would still grab hair.
One knife.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
so it's for me, the heart and soul of any knife is going to be how you heat treat the steel, you refine it, normalize it. You want to get the best performance out of that steel and cryogenically treating it, everything. That's the heart and soul of a knife. So to me, form follows function. It can look beautiful, but if it ain't cut, why make it?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's like putting lipstick on a pig. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it has to perform. That's why they ask, well, if we were fancy knives, they perform just like any other knife. Trust me.
Right.
I put everything through them.
Yeah.
And I'll take a blade that, I might sell that blade for $5,000 and I'll chop the heck out of a 2x4 or throw it into a, stump or whatever. I work it. Not every one, but sometimes, if I follow certain protocols, I know and I can anticipate and I know what performance I'm going to get out of that blade.
So if it's too long of a thing to talk about, don't worry about it. But like, what is the process of making a knife that sharp?
Well, you're going to have, it depends on the quality of steel you start with, because you can take mediocre steel and heat treat it properly and get a great knife. Like say leaf springs off a truck. That's 5160 generally. It lasts the life of a truck as a spring.
Yeah.
Well, those same qualities, because there's not really a knife that is made for the knife industry that is for the knife industry. Usually it's some other purpose that is crossed over to knife making.
Sure.
So the better steel is going to be ball bearing steel.
Really?
Yeah, you think about the military money.
That makes sense.
You can't have the space shuttle rolling around.
Yeah, no. You're using the strongest steel from other things. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, and to be able to utilize that in knife making, it holds just that perfect blend of the different elements in the steel. It's an alloy, so it's not just steel and carbon,
right?
But there's molybdenum, chromium. There's different vanadium. There's different things in there. But it's like, how do you make good bread?
Yeah,
it's flour and water and egg and this and a little yeast. It's the perfect combination that gets you really good bread.
Yeah,
and it's those things for good steel. Now, how do you take that steel and utilize that steel to get the best performance? So there's normalizing, which would bring it up to critical temperature, anything above, let's say 1500 degrees. So every time you forge it, it comes up to 2000. You're at that higher temperature, but then it cools down to. That's a normalizing session. Mm-hmm. So you may do that 30, 40 times while you're in the middle of forging a blade. So it's gone through that normalizing section. But sometimes if you let that blade sit at high temperatures, the grain structure will be large. I can take a blade that was not normalized and quench it in oil, and now it's hardened. And I can break it, and it looks like gravel. I'm not kidding you. It looks like big grains of gravel in the steel. Or I can take that same blade, throw it through what I normalize, the high temperature, and then I'll have more of a forged normalizing in and out of the forge at a lower temperature.
Right.
And then I go to an electric oven, and I come up to my critical temperature, let's say it's 1575 or something like that. Pull it out and let it cool to room temperature 3 times. I can harden that blade and break it, and it looks like gray milk. It looks like gray cream. It is just, the grain structure is so fine. So what that means is if you do a subcritical soak and you allow it to sit at a certain temperature for 2 hours, it allows the carbon to evenly disperse. You've already refine the grain structure. I hope this is not too technical.
No, dude, it's great. I mean, I'm learning. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if there's probably some people that are like, this is technical, but I don't care. I'm learning.
Yeah. I mean, I geek out on this stuff. To me, that's where I spent a lot of my education and learning is on that.
And here's the thing. So, you know, for me and anybody else that's listening, like the thing about this kind of stuff is I start drawing lines. Like, you know, let's get into, you talk to me a little bit about your past and about how you basically been on your own since you're 15 and everything. What's interesting is as you talk to me about the process of refining this knife, you know, not to sound cliche or anything, but like to me, it's almost like it feels like someone like you would be so passionate about something like this because you yourself have endured that in your life. Because it sounds like someone's life, and it sounds like in order to make somebody, you know, able to deal with the things that come along in life, like it's the same process. It's that constant, you know,
refinement.
Yeah, it's refining in the refiner's fire, right? Like everybody says that, but you're putting it into words, which I feel like most people don't ever really, you know, you hear that statement of the refiner's fire or, you know, going through the fire or whatever, but people don't really consider what that is. But you're actually putting it into words, and like it makes a lot of sense if you draw the lines and draw the comparisons to people's lives. So let's do that. Let's dive into, because I think we're going to see so many comparisons to what you just talked about with the knife compared to your life, and let's dive into that a little bit. So yeah, let's dive into you know, your childhood and kind of like your story and what got you to the point where you decided you want to be a master smith.
Well, you know, I think with a lot of successful people, there's somebody in your life that really set the standard. And for me, it was my dad.
Same. Yeah.
And he was a hardworking dude.
Yep.
And, you know, I went to work with him. He was a house painter, truck driver when I was real young. Then he started house painting. We moved to Idaho, and I was 5. So I started going to work with him when I was probably 8 or 9, packing, you know, paint and all that stuff. And, you know, in Idaho, you can get a license at 13. I did. It was daytime only. And I ran a 2-man crew because I'd worked for my dad and I knew how to paint houses. And that's what I did. I worked for my dad.
Right.
And it wasn't so much that my dad taught me what I do. My dad taught me something so much more important, and that was how to work. And he taught me how to work, how to be a man.
Yeah.
So when the economy kind of took a crash and we had to move back down to the Bay Area because that's where he could get a job where he could make money. We're talking 1980. I was 15, and I had 2 uncles and a cousin that had body shops. They're painting cars and wrecks, and to me,
were they actually body shops?
They were body shops.
We're talking the Bay Area in the '80s, bro. I.e.
That's another story. I got some juice for that.
Let's jump into it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of my cousins, he did 18 months in San Quentin.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm like, man, there's a lot of chop shops down there.
There's a lot of chop shops, dude. So anyway. For me, I was just a hardworking kid. I was like, I was eating this stuff up because I could spray cabinets, you know, whatever. I knew how to spray. And so I would go there, and my parents didn't have enough money to get an apartment for me to have a bedroom. So my brother stayed in Idaho. He came back to Idaho, and I just stayed at the shop or an aunt's house, or I didn't have a bedroom. I mean, I was like on my own. It was rough, dude. It was rough. Wow. You talk about culture shock. You come down, you know, I'm some country Idaho kid with guns and wrestling, and that was my life. You know, I was wrestling during high school, and all of a sudden I'm in the Bay Area.
In the 80s.
In the 80s, dude. And yeah, it was rough. So and here's the thing is half my family.
What part of the Bay Area?
In Oakland. So I lived in Richmond. I worked in Emeryville and then Oakland.
Yeah. So one of my good friends is from Brentwood.
That's across the bay.
Yeah, it's right next to like Stockton and Antioch, but dude, Oakland's rough.
Is that where Brentwood is?
Yeah, it's right around there.
Antioch, Stockton.
Yep, and like
so Antioch is going to be by Fairfield.
There's another one that starts with a P, Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, that's by Antioch. That's right by Vacaville or Vallejo.
And I actually sold door to door in there. So I'll tell you this really quick. So I sold door to door in Stockton. And I sold door to door for 10 plus years. That's what I did before this. I knocked doors. I sold satellite. And I knocked for 6 years. I managed a team, and then I basically built the training program and did all the marketing and training for the company. But dude, I'll never forget it. It was like, I don't know, third day there in that area. So it's summer sales, right? So we were only there for 4 months and we moved around different cities, but we were in Stockton that day. And 3 days in, so we're parked at a stoplight and the cop rolls up next to us and our windows are rolled down and he goes, roll your windows up. And I was like, what? Why? He's like,
a bunch of white boys, roll your windows
He goes,
up.
if you want to make it to the second stoplight, roll your windows up. I was like, oh, that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was the first experience with Stockton. And then for the next like 2 weeks, we had to carry, and I had a gun pulled on me 4 times. One time I knocked the door, opened the door up, right in my face. It's like, oh, this is. I did great though. I sold a lot of dish.
I had 3 or 4 guns and 5 or 6 knives pulled on me.
Yeah, man, it's rough. Oakland, especially, dude. Oakland's crazy. I mean, today, I don't know if it's worse now than it was in the 80s because I don't, I'm not super familiar with how exactly it was in the 80s, but I can only imagine. Oakland's bad now, though.
Oh, it was bad then. Dude, it was rough.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And being a young, cocky, weightlifting, wrestling kid, I didn't take nothing. And that was the thing is I'm a half breed. So my mom's from Peru.
Okay.
And my dad's blonde hair, blue-eyed, red beard, white dude.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's where the size and Viking comes from.
Yeah, all right. Makes sense.
Was him. So to, the Mexicans, I was white, and to the whites, I was Mexican,
Yep.
And Peruvian, what is that? Same as Mexican? They didn't.
Yeah.
It was whatever it was in Idaho. And
yep.
So, it's not that I was a fighter or nothing like that, but no, I'm not scared to throw down if I had to. But
Yeah, you're scrappy.
You're whatever it takes.
Scrappy Idaho boy.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. I've been punched. Had my butt kicked by my brother.
Yeah.
So I know what it.
And you know how to wrestle. I mean, if you know how to wrestle, you know how to ground. So
it was, and for me, wrestling was the same passion I have for knives. And it was just like, it was it for me.
Yeah.
So, when I moved down there, I went to work in my uncle's body shops. There was a drunk guy that would always come, maestro. He'd come and paint the cars, and I would work my rear end off. I'd get everything clean, prepped, and he was happy to have me around because I didn't walk, I ran. Whatever needed to be, I moved.
Yeah,
and I would get the cars cleaned up, de-waxed, tacked off, and then he would let me shoot the base coat, and then he'd let me shoot. He'd show me and teach me what to do, and my uncles did as well. But I learned a lot from this dude. Because then he'd pull out his little pint, his whatever he was drinking.
Yeah.
And he'd mix the color. Okay. And then he'd start having me. Pretty soon, he's, within a week or two, I'm shooting all the cars. He's drunk as he could be,
Yeah.
And for me, it was cool because I didn't care. I was there just, to help him
right.
prep the cars and get them ready. We'd shoot them at night, completes or whatever. And then during the daytime, I did body work during summer. And then I went to school, wrestled. And then after school, I went and painted cars. And that was my life. Yeah. There's times, man, I could tell you, I'd be so hungry, and they'd leave. I'd get done painting. It'd be 1 a.m, have no money. So I'd have to take the back seats out of cars, find change, because you could get on BART with 55 cents. But my stop was $1.80. So I'd get on BART and, wait, nobody's around, boom, jump over to the turnstile. And a couple times, hey, and I was gone,
Jeez.
Oh, I did that all the time. Yeah, it was.
Where'd you sleep in the shop? Was just a little couch or something in there?
No, there was a seat out of a 50-something Cadillac.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was kind of in this, there was a couch too, but that was not comfortable. The Cadillac seat was. Yeah, I had a rat crawling me once. So I've been, dirty and dusty from paint and working all day. And it's like, God, I just wanted to shower. I had to throw the hose up over the rafters and just have a hose come into cold shower and soap up and, that military type stuff. You get wet and then soap up and then get, I remember doing that a few times. Oh, there's times where I've ran cars, like say, what did I do? I got runs.
Yeah.
I'd sit there and just cry in the middle of the shop. As a kid, I was like, what am I going to do? And I have to wash the whole car with reducer or whatever, clean the paint off and then save the top coat and mix a color to put as a base, then come over the top of it. I mean, I could tell you stories. It sucked. But I learned how to paint cars and I was good. So by the time I had an offer to wrestle at San Jose State because they would come around and I had set records or whatever.
Did you finish school and everything?
Yeah, I graduated high school.
High school? Yeah, okay.
But, I was talking to my counselor and I was like, gosh, I'm making this much money. He's like, dude, you make more money than me. I was like, well, it don't feel like it. I have like 3 pair of underwear, 4 pair of socks, some jeans, a dining room table. I know what I have in my cupboard. I had a couple cups and plate, but it just cost money to live. You know?
Yeah.
And I was paying $400 a month for rent down then, in 1982 or whatever.
Yep.
So I was making a little bit, but it cost money to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, how do you make it on this? You're a counselor at a school, and I think he made like 34,000. I think I was going to make 36. And it was a lot for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up, long story short, you know how it is, family, they want you to pay dues. This guy was getting paid $75 a car. And he didn't show up a couple times. And my uncle's like, God, I got to paint this guy. I was like, hey, I've been painting him. Let me paint him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm going to paint him. I'm going to get $75 a car.
Yeah.
So I get done at the end of the week. Now he pays me $15 a car. Oh, I was so pissed. Hey, you got to pay your dues. You got to learn. I was like, I want to smack the heck out of you,
Yeah.
So then my cousin that owned a body shop comes over and said, hey, I heard you were pissed off because, he paid you this. Come to work for me. I'll pay you $25 a car. I was like, oh, yeah. See you later. I went to work. Well, I didn't know that Maestro was painting his cars too, so he was saving $50 a car by having me. Well, that was a smart business move, but
yeah, there you go.
It is what it is, So yeah. I learned, and he's the guy that I seen him and Reggie Jackson would bring his cars to his shop, and that guy is such a. Oh, I almost got into it. Years later, we almost got into it.
Really?
Oh, yeah, prima donna. Just these guys. So, at any rate, my cousin. There was times where I'd come in there and I was like, man, there is a pile of metal in the shop. I was like, what the heck is this? It was a 280 ZX, totaled.
Mm-hmm.
Just, there was demolished. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Not even seats. I mean, there was nothing in the car. And he goes, oh, yeah, this is a project we're working on. Like, project? What are you talking? And then there's these dudes, these shady dudes.
Did you know what a chop shop was back then?
No, had no clue.
This was your first experience?
Yeah, no clue.
Okay.
I'm picking my nose and my rear end. I didn't know what anything was.
Yep.
And so I'm painting cars in this car's there. Then sure enough, 1 a.m, I'd come out of the shop, just got a spray booth, just got done painting, and wow, there's a nice 280 ZX sitting there. And, oh yeah, Aaron, yeah, you're done for the night. Yeah, okay, just here's some money, go home. And the next day, what they would do is take the title, because back then they weren't given salvage titles, and they would buy a wreck, take all the identification off that car, the tags.
Yep.
And swap it over for this, and then roll it. So, whatever. He paid his dues to society. He got caught. But they were also, family was from Peru. And, what they import from Peru is, cocaine. And those guys were doing their thing. And I was just an outsider. So when they started doing all this investigation, the cops, and I'm a 17-year-old kid. I don't know nothing, They just want to talk to me. And I'm like, did I get my mom? Why? I'm 17. Oh, you are? No, we can't talk to you. Bye. But he ended up losing his shop. He did time. Another guy, he was married into the family. He had a body shop too. They got him a little longer.
Really?
Yeah, he did some more time. And then as soon as he got out, they deported him.
Jeez.
Yeah. Edmundo, he was a cool dude. Man. Edmundo, yeah. You're a partying young kid, and I did crazy stuff back then, but yeah, it was. Well,
I mean, dude, those are the experiences. Like, I mean, those are the ones that really do. Like we said, they shape you. I mean, it's what
for better or worse.
Yeah. Well, while you're talking about the shower thing, like, dude, I know all about that. So I served my mission in Nicaragua, and I always tell people I had 2 actual showers my whole mission. Not like I took a shower twice, but like I had an actual shower head twice. Mm-hmm. And then every other day, like every single day for the rest of the 2 years, it was a 50-gallon barrel of water, rainwater outside, a bowl, and a giant thing of soap. And it was exactly what you did. You took that soap, or you took that bowl of water, got yourself wet, took that big thing of soap, and it was cold. It was cold water every single day. And, but it shapes you and it gives you perspective. Yeah. And that alone gave me so much perspective of like what we have here.
Oh,
versus, how these other people live. And I mean, it definitely, it's like we talked about, it's like it's a refiner's fire, right? There's all these different things that happen in your life. I feel like that just kind of prepare you. And, I think some people would say, well, I've been fortunate enough not to have those kind of experiences. And I always say, no, you're not fortunate. Like, I'm fortunate to have those experiences.
Yeah.
those experiences are what have made me who I am. I mean, those experiences are what make me know for a fact that if you and I go head to head and whatever it is, I'm going to beat you every time because I just have,
there's no quitting me.
That's it. I have way more drive. I have way more purpose. I mean, it's just, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything. It's just people that experience those kind of things throughout their life and have that fire, right? I mean, they're sharper.
Yeah.
They're
well, it's like prepared. I said, my dad taught me how to work, but wrestling taught me not to quit.
Yeah.
And those two things really helped me when, gosh, I had to wash underwear in a sink, hang them up. Sometimes I go to school commando because I just didn't have nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was those type of things that made me appreciate the value of $1 or the value of working for something.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm not stingy at all. I'm probably one of the more generous people I know, but it developed in me just a respect for things don't come free and easy.
Yeah.
And, but we all want to, give our families better than what we had.
Yep.
And we do that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was those type of things. I mean, and it was just, it's like I moved from.
Yeah. So where'd you go? So from there, you're 17, then what?
Well, I lived at 23rd and McDonald in Richmond. And if anybody knows where that at, it is not good. Man, I seen guys I heard whack, whack, whack. I was like, what the heck? I woke up, I look out the window, and there's these 4 dudes just beating this dude with a bat. Blood was just, he would crawl to underneath the car, they'd pull him out, and I'm 911. I'm like, man, that's killing this guy. And cops come around the corner, and these guys are literally bats over their head, ready, they get them. I'm thinking, oh, good, clear the neighborhood up, Nope, they were out the next day. A few days later, some guys with all bandaged up. It was the dude. They're coming back. They're just associating with each other. And one of those guys, lived next door, and I'm walking to Bart. Hey, you got any money? Like, no. And he takes and stiff arms me across the chest. I just pop and dropped him right there.
Yeah.
And I was ready, for his family. Their brothers came out, and they were, they're older men.
Yeah.
He was a 40-year-old man, did this to me.
Yep.
Oh, it's cool, dude. No, we don't want problems. And so that was it. I was packing from then on. When I walked by them, opened my coat. They're like, no, we're cool. That dude kept, going in the house. That was stuff I dealt with.
Yeah.
And it was, it was crazy to do that. So I ended up moving to Gilman Street in Berkeley, just across from Europa Cars.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Berkeley is a wild place, man.
Oh, it was.
Of all the places in California, the only thing that Berkeley has to offer the world is an ice cream sandwich. That's about it. Everything else.
It was, if you don't know, if you ain't been down there, you don't know, man, you don't know. It is terrible.
Cream is fantastic. Everything else about that place.
So I had one night, some guy, he was a heroin addict in the neighborhood, and he would come by the shop and whatever, just get out of our shop. He comes and knocks on my door. Bam, bam, bam. 1 a.m. I come up and boom, he pushes in the door. And I had a roommate. He had his head on the couch. He pushed his head in the couch. He says, I'm telling you right now, I have a gun. We want money. I'm like, and I'm in my underwear. I'm like, dude, I don't have no money. And well, you better get some out of the shop. I was like, well, I'll meet you over at the shop. There's a little theater next door to the shop. And I was like, I don't have a phone. I don't have nothing, So we'll go over there. Let me go see what I can do. So I got dressed real quick, got my gun, put it in my back of my pants. And they were in the front yard, and there was a guy in the truck, and he showed me his gun, and I was like, oh, this is real. And I went to next door, it was an Asian dude, the manager, and his name was Tom. And I was like, hey, this is what's happening. What do I do? He goes, oh, I'm calling the cops. I was like, okay, well, go outside and let's distract this dude. And so there was 2 other cars that they shined their headlights on us, and that type of stuff that, hey, they had backup. Mm-hmm. And this guy standing in front of me, and I'm like talking with him, like, we think you're going to kill me? You're going to do, yeah, that's right. If you don't pay, and he's cussing, the whole time. It's MF this, MF that. And as soon as he heard sirens coming, he turned his head. I pulled my gun out, and I held it right to his forehead. He turned around. I said, you move, you're dead.
Yeah.
I said, you move.
It's you or me.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I said, you move, you're dead. It's 22 Magnum. It'll blow your head out. You will never hear the sound.
Yep.
And I'm telling him that.
Yep.
Cops pull up. I just put my gun like that, put it on the ground, took him into custody. Cop gives me my gun, put it away. And so, okay, so we go to court. In the meantime, his brother had threatened me a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm coming back from the beach one time, and I was at a grocery store, and he comes up like he's going to sneak up behind me. And I see him coming, and I just shirt over his head, ran him through the window of
just
the car.
hockeyed him.
Just stinking, just took him out. So we go to court, and he's in court, and I'm sitting there in the chair talking to the judge and explaining what was going on. And yeah, I've been threatened by his family, this and that. And the judge is like, who's that guy that keeps mean dogging you? I go, that's his brother. That's Wendt. I said, because of him, I carry a gun. I said, next time I see you, I will kill you.
Yeah.
I'm just straight up. You know, I have respect for life. I believe in the Bible and God, but my life's valuable.
Right.
And I will, the judge was like, take him into custody. And then I said, that guy that just left the room too. He said, because as soon as that heat came on, there's another guy in the back of the courtroom and boom, they left. So they grabbed both those guys. They ended up doing 3 years. The guy that did this, you know, extortion or whatever it was, he ended up doing 5 or 7 or 8, whatever it was. He got nailed, but they had 17 counts. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like talking to the judges. There's 17 counts. He's done this 17 other times to people, and nobody. How come he's not in jail? They would intimidate him. Nobody'd go to court.
Yeah.
I was like, man, not today, dude.
No,
we're here.
Those Democrat cities.
And here I was, and I was kind of a little scared because I was just going to turn 18, and I was like, man, what? I don't live at home. I don't. You know, I felt like I don't have nothing. You know, what do I have?
Right.
My parents aren't here. They lived in San Jose. You know. And yeah, that was a weird, you know, I didn't, because you're a kid, you don't know nothing. And yet you're thrown into this weird situation. And so it was, you know, and at that time, you know, I was body shop, I was manager doing work. And so I end up that, you know, that kind of forms who you are, your thinking, your perspective on life, what you go through.
Yes. Yep.
And so from there, I ended up not working for my uncle anymore. And I went to Continental Volvo as a Volvo dealer, started working on, I was doing heavy collision. I was doing repair.
Okay.
You know, I could cut 2 cars in half and make one out of them. It was, for me, it was passion.
Yeah.
But it was funny as I got back into painting, and I couldn't get out of it till I retired from doing body shop work. But I was working on cars, and I hear the manager and the painter get into a cussing match with each other, and he comes out, you know, the office with my resume. He says, "Hey, on your resume it says you can paint cars." I was like, "No, I want to be a body man. I don't want to be a painter. I'll quit if that's the case." He's like, "No, just fill in till the end of the week. I'll get a painter." I was like, "Okay." So I went and started painting cars for that week, and then he comes in on Friday. "Hey, good news! I got a painter." I was like, "Thank God, I'm done with this." He goes, "Nah, it's you." I was like, "I quit.
I'm done. Thank you."
Well, I'll give you a $4 an hour raise. Like, God, man, what? Really?
Yeah.
You know, I was making $12 an hour. Now I'm making 16. It's like
hard to pass up at that point.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, so I was the painter. And then, but I got to say, that guy, he bumped me up. And by the time I went to work for him about 18 and a half. And by the time I was 19 and a half or so, I was making 22 an hour.
Which back then, that was
huge.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge. 22. No, I think it's making 24.
Wow.
Well, I went from, because same thing, he had a mouth and I had a hot head, and I don't disrespect you.
Yeah.
You disrespect me, you're gonna feel something.
Yep.
And so I ended up going to the BMW dealer. And then from there, same thing, the manager, smart ass mouth. And I'm standing there with a supplier, and he says something smart to me. I was like, "Say what? If you don't like it, you can quit." And the guy just grabs me. You know, he says, "Don't say nothing." Manager leaves. He goes, "Like what?" I was ready to, tear him a new one. He goes, "Dude, there's a shop in San Francisco would love to have you." Mercedes, he was the best shop in town.
Yeah.
It was Mercedes-Benz. So then I went to work. I was the head painter at Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. But it was, same type thing. I did that. And then, talk about door-to-door sales. I was done. At that point, I'm already have a child. I didn't want to live really in the Bay Area anymore. My son was born. I didn't want to be there. And I was tired of working in shops.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to paint houses. And my wife was like, "Well, why don't you start, go back to painting houses?" I was like, "Well, I'm making $35 an hour. It's hard to pass that up." Back in, in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money. So I thought, you know what? You're right. I got up, walked out, just took a notebook. I just went next door, and I just walked down my block, and anybody that needed a paint job, I just knocked on their door. It's like, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I've done. This is where I was working, painting cars. I know how to paint houses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your neighbor. There's my address. And if you would let me bid your house, I would, I'll give you the best paint job you could possibly get.
Yeah.
It would be the best."
Yep.
and it'll be at a fair price. And I walked around my block. I came home with $15,000 of deposits.
I mean, dude, that's how it is. Like you know, I'll preach it from the rooftops. There's a lot of things about the knocking door-to-door sales industry that can be very toxic, but at the same time, you learn more and you grow more knocking on doors and learning how to sell yourself and get business from someone on the spot than almost anything else in the world, I feel like.
Oh, it's...
I mean, dude, I was good. Like, you talk to people in the industry from the time that I was knocking, and it was like, I mean, they used to call me Prime Time. That was my nickname, because I wouldn't knock all day. Number one, I didn't care enough. It wasn't like some of these guys would just live, sleep, and eat that stuff. Just they wanted to be number one, and it was like, I'm gonna work all day, every day. And dude, I was totally fine making a ridiculous amount of money and only working 4 hours a day. And, you know, call it lazy, whatever, but like I just didn't want to knock all day long. And also during the day, you know, I kind of talked myself into this, which it's not really the truth, but at the time I was like, most of these guys don't put numbers on the board until prime time anyway, because most people are not home, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, while they're all out knocking blank doors, I'm just going to hang out and play freaking Mario Kart and go to the pool. And then when, you know, 4:30 rolls around, it's a lot less hot outside. I'm going to go out and I'm going to beat every one of them in 3 hours anyway. And I did. And dude, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I literally would sell every other door, if not every door that I knocked. So I would hit a cul-de-sac and it was, and I'd go home.
Well, you're going there with the purpose of not knocking on doors, but talking to people.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what it is. And I used to tell people that too. I used to say the best salesmen understand that all they're doing is going out and having conversations about Dish and selling people it in the process. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of what the bad salesmen do, which is they're going out to sell people and talk to them in the process.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You go out and talk to people and you sell them in the process.
Yeah, that's what I did that's how I ended up walking around that block and coming back. I sold myself.
Yes.
And the quality that I would bring you.
And that's the difference. The difference is being able to carry on a genuine conversation with somebody while presenting a solution to a problem that they have, even if they don't realize they have the problem.
Even if they don't know they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that skill alone is invaluable. I mean,
and you think about even the audience, people out there, yeah, but I don't have anything to sell or whatever. You know, I had to overcome that gut feeling of I had a mortgage, a child. I was giving up a good paying job. It's that sink or swim. I'm diving in. You just have got to do it. Sometimes you have just got to take that leap of faith and move.
Yep. And I also, you know, I'll challenge it a little bit, because I do believe that when you have your back against the wall, you definitely perform on a different level. I mean, I know that throughout my life, that's how it's been, but I will also say, you know, so aside from, like I said, I knocked for 6 years, I managed one. And then before I actually started to build the training program, I was also very good at teaching people how to do it. Like I was very good at replicating myself, which is why I was able to grow into the positions that I did. Because in the door-to-door industry, you don't become an executive of a company unless you have a massive network underneath you. That's kind of the stipulation. Like if you want to become a vice president, there's a bunch of VPs, but if you want to become a VP or a regional or whatever higher up, you have to have a massive network underneath you. And that's what justifies that, right? I was one of the only people in the industry that ever became an executive without having a single person underneath. Well, I had like 3 people underneath me. But the reason why was because I was able to fill a gap that they had that I saw, and I was able to replicate myself. And I told the executive when I wanted, because I knew that I wanted to stay in the industry, because the amount of money you can make in door-to-door as a 21, 22, 23-year-old is unmatched. I mean, I was making 6 figures in 3 months. Like it's stupid. And I was knocking, like I said, like 3 hours a day. And so, the lifestyle that you lead and the amount of money you make, I was traveling around the world 2-3 times a year. Like it was an incredible life. And I knew that I wanted to keep that life, but I did not want to knock another door. I was like, I'm done knocking. Like that's it. So I figured out a way to stay in the industry, add enough value, and create another position. And I basically created the training position. So what I did after that last year of managing, I went to the executive and I said, look, I am so much more valuable to you than, 300 or 400 accounts a year. Like, I can teach all 300 of your reps how to sell 300 accounts if you give me the opportunity. And he was like, well, that sounds cool, but like, you need to prove it, because I'm not going to just give you a position and let you know. And I was like, all right, cool. Challenge accepted. So I literally went out that summer and I personally drove to every single office around the country. I put 76,000 miles on my car in one summer. And that's a bit. I drove to every single office and I trained all the reps and managers. I ran correlation meetings. I did everything I could in all these different offices, and I kept track of all of it, all the metrics, all the sales increases. I overdrafted my bank account like 6 times that summer, and that was unheard of. I'd never done that before, but the reason why is because I wasn't focused on my own commission. So I wasn't really making any money, because all the sales that I got with these guys were their sales, right? And so I really wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was making enough just to live and to pay gas.
I think it gets to the point where money doesn't matter.
No, it didn't, because I had a much bigger goal. My goal was, I'm going to stay in this industry. I'm going to create an opportunity that for myself and my family that, that nobody else can, because quite frankly, nobody else had the talent that I did. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to make it happen. So I did. So I went out, I did all that. And then for about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months, I was doing that. I was keeping track of all the metrics. And I created these paper surveys. Literally, it was just a survey written down on paper, and then I copied it. And it was for the reps and the managers. And I would have them fill it out anonymously. And then I would keep track of it. And then I would take pictures of it and send it via email to the COO of the company who I had talked to. And sure enough, after like 2.5, 3 months with all the sales, we like doubled and tripled the numbers of those. I doubled and tripled the numbers of those offices. And the metrics were insane. And finally he was like, all right, well, obviously you know what you're doing, so come on in and tell us what it is. and that was it. And so then I literally took over the whole training program, and I built their entire system from the ground up, their whole training system, the whole process that they were going to teach everybody and the leaders and everything. So I was in charge of the creation and the implementation of the whole thing for the next 3-4 years. And then eventually I took over the marketing too. But what I was getting at is, I forget what I was getting at. What was I getting at? What did you say before that?
Well, it's just that taking that leap of faith, going out and doing something. You were done knocking on door to door.
Yeah. So I was done knocking doors, but I knew I needed to create a different opportunity. And so that's what I did. And like that, I don't believe I would have had the ability to do that if I hadn't developed it by knocking doors. I wouldn't have had that same. No, I remember what I was saying.
Yeah, prep you for where you're going.
Well, it was also I remember why I was going on that though. It was challenging the idea of desperation, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, I put my back against the wall. I overdrafted my account. I drove all over the country and everything. And while I was very desperate to create that opportunity, what I always told people as a trainer, every single rep I ever knocked with, I always used to say the exact same thing. I said, desperation is negativity's best friend. I said, you have to be the needed, not the needy. The number one difference that I saw in myself and high performing salespeople versus the ones that weren't is every single door they went to, that customer felt like they needed them and the rep did not need the customer.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it was. I made every single one of my customers feel like they had to do business with me. Like, you need me, I don't need you. Even though realistically, I do need you, right? And it's the difference of the whole like commission breath, right? So what I was going to challenge you on was basically, you do have to put yourself in a place where you feel like your back is against the wall and there is a little bit of desperation, but you also have to understand that you have to hide that. You have to mask it with confidence and the ability to say, I know that I need this money, but at the end of the day, I'm going to come off as the person who doesn't need the money, and I'm going to create so much value that they're going to give me the money.
Yeah, that's the same thing. When I knocked on the doors, I was confident as hell about myself, who I was.
That's right, because you knew what you were capable of.
And if you want the best, I'm going to give it to you.
That's right.
And they were, we want you because you live here. You're going to do,
Yeah, I literally always used to, like, anytime we'd get into a place with customers where, they were giving me an objection, and I was like, oh, well, let's think about it, or, I don't think it's the right time or whatever. Be like, look, man, like, my job is to put you in a better spot than you were in before I knocked your door. And I I know I can do that because, and sometimes I'd even pull my binder out and show them 55 pink slips and be like, because I've done it to every single one of your neighbors. Look around. There's 2 trucks out there right now. Like you see them, they're right across the street, right?
That's what I would say to the people I went. I was like, I have a dance card, and once that dance card's full, I'm not taking any more jobs.
And
and I would just
and I'd be like, I know what I'm doing, and I'll tell you what, I would always just say, like, give me a minute and a half to show you exactly what I've done for everybody else. If it doesn't make sense, no big deal. I'm not gonna, it doesn't hurt me. Like I'm no hard feelings at all. And again, it was that mentality of like, you're gonna feel like you need me. I don't need you. Because if you're not gonna do it, someone else is.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the same thing you're doing with your knives, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, I'm gonna make this knife. It's gonna be so good that you're gonna want it. But if you don't want it, no big deal. There's gonna be someone else that wants it.
Yeah. I don't get desperate.
Yeah. And that comes from knocking doors. That comes from putting yourself in a place where you have to sell yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's lacking with so many people nowadays.
They don't know how to do it.
No.
Well,
or maybe there's not a situation where they have to be scrappy because they can live in mom's basement or things are easy and nice. I don't know. I don't know why.
I'll tell you, dude. I mean, look, the experiences that you had, in the auto body shops and having to, be hungry and not have like clothes for every day and all these different things. And then also getting into situations where you had to defend yourself against people that were trying to do you harm. I mean, I was also bullied as a kid, right? Like for years I was bullied, and eventually I stood up to them. And I'll tell you, those are the things that I'm talking about when you say the refiner's fire, because I believe that those things do a lot of things for us, but the biggest thing they do is they give us self-love and self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am very comfortable with the person that I am. I genuinely can say that I love myself. Like I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but at the end of the day, like I'm proud of it. And I can say that I'm genuinely grateful and confident in myself. And that, I believe, is what actually makes it possible for me to do all the things that I do. But that comes from those experiences. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that all those things that you went through made you someone who was very confident and does love, like you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you're able to do things that most people aren't. You're able to, put yourself in those situations that most people don't.
Well, it's like, when I tell anybody about it, to me, it's not a big deal being a master because I've reached the crescendo, the peak. No, I haven't. I am a forever student. I will always be a student of the art I love.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've had these accomplishments, but you never stop learning.
Mm-mm.
You got to keep trying. I enjoy who I am. I'm confident in what I can do. But man, if I hear somebody talk, or if I go to I'm going to go teach at that Hammer-In, I am open like a sponge for anything anybody tells me.
Yep.
Because then it might just be one little nugget of information, but I'll take that in and, I'm going to go put that into my knife making. And I'm going to improve myself somehow by something.
Yep. I mean, and that's it, man. The world has become soft. I mean, that's just the reality. And it's getting even softer with AI and everything else. Like people have gotten to the point where they've allowed themselves to not seek out those hard experiences. And I'll admit, as when you're going through it, it's not fun. And at the time you're like, I don't want to go through this. Like, I wish things were easier. I wish I could do, you don't appreciate it in the moment.
Mm-mm.
You appreciate those hard times after the fact because you're like, oh yeah. Okay. That's what that taught me. Okay.
Well, it's like a 17-year-old kid sitting in the middle of a body shop crying.
Yeah, exactly. In the moment, you're like, this freaking sucks. I hate my life. But then afterwards, you're like, well, no, because that's what I got from that. And I believe that those experiences, like I said, are what give you the confidence and make you truly love yourself and appreciate what you've been through and be grateful for the experiences and the development that you've experienced, which in turn makes you able to sell yourself. And the ability to sell yourself, I think, is probably one of the most, if not the most valuable characteristic that, or skill that anyone on planet Earth can have.
It is a skill.
It is.
I mean, it's like my son, he's running the car dealership now. He's a general manager because he has that moxie to sell.
Yep.
And well, you know what it's like talking to Rocky.
For sure.
He's a good dude,
Yeah.
And but those are.
He was up against it with me. I don't know if he told you.
Oh yeah.
He was up against it.
He said, he goes, the thing is, he goes, salesmen love to be sold by a good salesman.
You're right. Because I appreciate it.
Yes. He told me that. He told me the conversation you guys had.
Yeah. Because I told him straight up, I was like, dude, I'm a salesman. I did this for a long time. Like at the end of the day, this is what I want to know. Make it this way, do this, and I'll do it. That was it.
Yeah.
And he actually ended up selling me in different things. So yeah, it's you're right. That's exactly how it is. Because I appreciated the fact that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And that's, and a lot of this, even sales with anybody, is they want to enjoy the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, you get like even buying a car, let's just use the cars for now. You get in somebody coming in the dealership and they're pissed off. Yeah, they're pissed off because they're going to spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, sorry. For anybody wondering what we're talking about, Rocky is Aaron's son, and he sold me a minivan. I don't want to talk about that right now. I don't want to talk about the minivan situation. All right, they're comfortable. They're you know what? Like, they're pretty dang convenient. It's a comfortable vehicle, but he
sold a big, tough Patriot, weightlifting, big arm dude.
I never thought in a million years I would own a. It's my wife's car.
A minivan.
Anyway. We're not,
there's nothing unmanly. Well, there is things unmanly about that, but that's not wrong. I mean, we do what we got to do in life,
It is freaking comfortable though, man. Long road trips. I'll tell you what, it's a comfortable car. Anyway, continue.
So it's those type of things that can either make us successful in life or it can break us.
Yep.
And like you said, being soft. Too many people nowadays, I think, are so soft that the smallest inconvenience just crumples them.
Yep.
And it's sad to see, but hopefully they can go through enough of that and pick themselves up and make something of themselves,
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's the other thing too. It opens it up. It opens it wide up, man. Like you really consider the barrier of entry as far as like what it means to be strong and capable nowadays as a man. I mean, the barrier of entry is pretty damn small. Like it does not take a whole lot to stand out in a crowd anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Like, holy crap, dude. It's sad. It's really sad. And I mean,
it's disheartening when you see it in a community.
And it does, it goes back to though, like we're going to kind of go back now because you were talking about how the person in your life who's really made you, who was the example was your dad. Dude, that was my dad. My dad was so he was a salesman. He did door-to-door sales, magazines, all kinds of stuff. And then eventually he was building furniture and he's working at a Sears auto body shop and he did all kinds of stuff. And then growing up, there was 7 of us in a single wide trailer for 10 years. And yeah. And he not only was knocking doors selling life insurance. Okay. So imagine going to someone's door and telling and trying to sell them on the spot life insurance. He did that and he crushed it. And then on top of that, he was going to school full-time to get his bachelor's degree because he didn't get it when he was a kid. So he said, I'm going to go and get my degree because he wanted to be an agent for insurance. And he wanted to own his own agency. And then on top of that, he was also in our church, he was a religious leader. He was a branch president of this small branch that was an hour away that we had to not only drive to every single Sunday, but we also had to pick up 15 of the members who were basically all the members of the church because none of them had vehicles because it was a poor area. So we would leave at 5 a.m. in the morning on Sundays with my mom. My dad was already at the church. We left at 5 a.m. to go and do the rounds, pick everybody up and drop them off. And then it was an all day thing. And and then the amount of meetings he had every week with that too. So like the amount of work that my dad did for my childhood is just unreal to even think about. And looking back also, I'm thinking of the fact that they were probably making 50, 60 grand a year, which how with that
many kids?
I mean, dude, and I mean, it shows, like I said, we didn't have what we wanted. We had what we needed, but in the summer we had one air conditioning freaking swamp cooler in the kitchen and we literally used blankets on one end of the house and the other to shut down those sides so that all the air was trapped in the middle. And dude, upstate New York in the summer, most people don't know, but I mean,
it's humid.
Bro, you open the door, it's a freight train.
Yeah.
And we lived in that small, I don't even know how many square feet it was. It was just a living room and the kitchen. And then, in the winters, we couldn't keep the heat up very high because it cost too much. So we would wear our parents' t-shirts, giant t-shirts. And every time that vent kicked on, it was a fight to get to the vent, throw the shirt over your legs and sit there as long as you could, stay warm. Orange juice was a freaking luxury. I mean, it was milk and water and it was skim milk and water. Cheese Krispies. We lived on Cheese Krispies and Top Ramen. Cheese Krispies is a tortilla with cheese, by the way.
I've done gleaning. I've gone out and picked ears of corn and potatoes. It's you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I remember every winter we also had to put freaking giant pieces of plastic on the bottom of the house to keep the cold out from underneath of the broken shingles that happened during the storms. I mean, dude, it was, but those kind of things, like my dad probably wasn't as present as most father, or not most, but as a lot of fathers are. I don't remember having tons of time where we were like just hanging out together. I don't have a lot of memories like that. And while that is something that I look back on and I wish I had, it gave me, what I got from him outweighs that, which is just the sheer understanding of you are the man of the house. You're going to do whatever it takes to give your family a life that you don't have or haven't had, and make sure that life is better than anything they can imagine.
He set the example.
Yeah. And I mean, I do try to be more present. I mean, being an entrepreneur makes it a lot easier to, not easier, but I mean, I can still kind of call the shots. But I try to be as present as I can. But I always remember the example that my dad set as far as hard work and just, I don't remember it, not even one time do I ever remember him complaining about anything. Like, not one time, not even once. It was just get it done. That's what you got to do.
And that's so important. When you think about quality time and all that. My time, I worked with my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to school, but when I wasn't at school, or there'd be days where Aaron, I need help painting, trimming the house. Okay, call the teacher. Hey, Aaron's not going to be in school for a couple of days. I got to help my dad work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just you do what you got to do. But those type of, just even that interaction with him, and we're working together. And I remember seeing my dad and just think, man, this guy works his ass off. This dude is working. And so it would make me work. I was, like I said, my dad didn't teach me what I do. He taught me how to work. And that's so important. You don't see that nowadays. You got people that are so entitled and lazy.
Well, and that's it, dude. The entitlement and the apathy is ultimately what is leading to our downfall. I mean, it's, people want everything without doing any of the work for it anymore. And most people won't even try to go after something, so going back to like what I was saying, I think a lot of people that are listening to this, there's a lot of people that are listening to this who probably want to do something. They probably want to accomplish something great. In their minds, they've been telling themselves they're going to start something and they just never do. And it's like, why? And so I think, what made you get to the point where you were like, I want to make knives for a living? And then I'm sure you realized, okay, this is the process, because I'm sure you studied about it and you said you tried to figure out what that process was. What made you say, okay, screw it, I'm just going to do it?
Well, it's, it's like, I have people come up to me now and are like, oh man, I want to make a living making knives. And I'm like,
yeah, I get the same thing. I want to make a clothing brand, bro.
Yeah. I want to start a podcast, make money on it. Yeah. It's okay. First off, knife making equipment's expensive. You got money for it? You got a shop? Go get a job, get a real job, work.
Yep.
And then do what I did.
Open one door before you close the other.
Exactly. Start accumulating. Most of the knife makers, to be honest with you, with the guys I know are successful, they've had other careers. They've been doctors and lawyers, and they've been other things.
It's a hobby.
And then all of a sudden now they've been able to have time to pursue their passion.
Yep. From hobby to business. Yep.
So for me, I mean, I had, the painting thing, and because I don't do drugs and work hard and have a valid driver's license, and be surprised how successful you can be when you're
just
like
those
that.
Simple things.
Yeah, just simple. So I got into building houses, and I had 20 employees, and it was, I did different things. But like you said, you got tired of knocking on doors. I got tired of one career. Yeah, and then I'm gonna do something else, and I got into doing repairs in cars, leather seats and cigarette burns, and I had franchises doing that, and that's how I got introduced to knife making. I got rained out. I had opened some franchises in Phoenix and Tucson and Orlando and Tampa Bay and Plant City, and I was around there. And when I was in Florida, I was there for 2 years exactly to the day, and I wanted to be back in California.
Too hot.
It sucked, man. I got heat sickness twice.
I can't do it, dude. Every time I go down to that place, especially in the summer, I'm like, this is miserable.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
If
you don't know,
insane.
They told me it'd take me 2 years to get used to it. I was like, not me. I'm gone.
No.
Arizona, I never got heat sickness, and I drank 3 to 5 gallons of water a
Yeah.
day, and my shirts were completely dry.
Yeah.
You walk from your house to your car in the
It's
summertime.
miserable.
It's
and then you get in a
unbelievable.
pool and it's a hot bath.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's like can I even breathe?
Yeah,
you know?
it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, but I got rained
Sorry,
out.
Florida people. I just can't do it, man. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
I'm a snowman.
nice. You're gonna be down in Florida. Yeah. No, it's miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially from Idaho. I mean, it's nice and warm, dry up here, and
Yep.
but so I got rained out. I was at a Barnes and Noble, and I was looking at a magazine, and there was a guy that had an ad in there, and he was like 5 miles away. And I called him. He said, "Yeah, come to my shop." Well, at that point, I had already been. I kind of wanted to get out of that business a little bit, and it was phenomenal money.
Yeah. I mean, you had how many franchises? 7?
Oh yeah, a bunch of them. So, but just what I could produce myself, because the low overhead was low,
Yep.
and it was massive. It was good money.
Yep.
But I got, every time I set somebody up, I would have to go sell, and I'd talk to a new manager, and he'd leave, and I had to resell to the
Yeah. It
next
just got
one.
monotonous.
It got
Yep.
to the point to where I was like, this is good, but I'd like to work from home. And what really got me started was I shoot traditional archery equipment,
Mhm.
and the guy that I get my bows from, they're $1,000 a bow or more,
Mhm.
and it's a 9-month to a year wait. I'm like, how cool is that? He works in his shop in his backyard, and he just makes his bows, and you buy them.
Mhm.
I would like to do something like that. So he encouraged me, and I started making bows. Well, that's about the same time, just as I started getting some equipment together. That's when, and I thought, what a hobby for my son and I. He's like 15. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's cool. Let's do this together. And then I met the knife guy. His name's Cliff Parker, old hippie dude, man. And I could not believe what I was seeing this guy make in his shop, in his backyard, in a trailer park. And I thought, man, I could do this. Okay, and I had money. I was like, I'll pay you, train me. He's like, no. So you go buy a grinder.
Was he a master knifesmith?
No, he never became an ABS mastersmith. But he associated with all his buddies were.
Got it.
And he was already old at the time. He's alive now. He's got to be in his 80s. And this is 22 years ago. And so he was a foreman for a drywall company.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, what happened was I started making these knives, and pretty soon it's like, man, it cost me money to go to work. Because his knives are selling for $1,500 to $2,000 a little gentleman folders is what he did. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Oh, and you won't train me. No. He goes, go buy a grinder, watch every DVD, read every book.
DVD.
Yeah,
there's no YouTube back then.
No, none of that stuff. It was DVDs. So
VHS. Dude, honestly, that's how it was with sales too, man. I remember to this day. You know what I had to learn how to sell freaking dish? They didn't give me any training. That's why I became the leader of the trainer, because the summer I went out, that's what they gave me. They gave me a DVD with 3 role plays and a freaking laminated sheet. And they said, and I had, my trainer trained me. I was kind of an anomaly though, man. I watched those DVDs for like a couple days, just lived, slept, and ate them. My trainer took me out for like 45 minutes, and then I sold the first 3 doors I ever knocked.
Yeah, figure it out.
But dude, it was a DVD. It was literally watching a role play 3 times.
I had VHS too tapes, and he was like, watch all you can. And he goes, and then once you make about 10 knives you throw away, come back and I'll teach you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because he goes, otherwise this is going to be over your head. You're not going to remember it.
Yep.
So I did that, bought the stuff, and I went to my first knife show. And I was blown away by what these guys were making. And I'm thinking at the time, oh, this is cool. I'd like to do this just as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So I met an old guy named Corbin Newcomb. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make what you're making, little Damascus skinners, because I love to hunt. I need a good knife. I want to do this. So he took a liking to me and my family. And later in the show, I was getting ready to leave. He whistles at me and calls me over. You really going to do this? I was like, yeah, He goes, why don't you come to Missouri, spend a week with me? He goes, I'll teach you more in a week, and you'll learn 20 years on your own. I was like, man, sold. Done.
Yeah.
So my son and I drove our motor home to Missouri. We stayed on his property, and we started making knives at 6 a.m, and we would quit at 1 a.m.
How old was this Rocky? How old was he?
At the time, he was 15.
Okay.
So 14. And so we did that week, and I went away with a bunch of blanks. We made Damascus, but it was so, because I had bought the grinder. I had all my stuff, and what he taught me, it sank.
Yeah.
So I went back and I made one knife on my own, and I went to that first guy, Cliff Parker. And I went to Cliff, and I was like, what do you think of this knife, dude? This is what I'd made. He looks at me, and he's like, I can't teach you anything. He goes, what you got to do is just keep doing this, and in time, you'll get better. He goes, this is beautiful. This is exactly what you need to do. And I was like, wow. And so I
just fell in love right there.
Oh yeah. To me, it was cool what I made, you know,
yeah.
and I, you know, it was pretty vulgar what he said about, I was like, what do I charge for this? You know? And I mean, it was pretty vulgar. I don't know if they had a podcast.
Dude, the amount of swearing that have happened on this podcast, like, it's fine. It does not matter.
Oh, he looks at me and he goes,
the second guy was every 3 words.
Oh, so he looks at me and he sees this, like, what do I sell that for? He goes, if you couldn't sell that for $475, I'd suck your dick. But he's a hippie and he's kind of real close and it's uncomfortable. You know, I was laughing. I was like, oh, okay. I appreciate that. Thanks. You know, my son stand right there and he's, you know, like,
that's pretty so funny.
As funny as it could be.
That's funny.
So I went to a gun store in town there in Tampa and I took it in, talked to the owner. I was like, hey, I'm, you know, new knife maker. This is what I do. I'd like to sell this knife. Would you sell it? And I don't have no idea what it would sell for. I mean, I did. He goes, oh, I think I could sell that for $475. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Same number as the other guy, right? So I leave there and he calls me about half an hour later. I wasn't even at my next destination. And he goes, hey, can you make another one? I was like, yeah, I'm working on another one. He goes, yeah, this one just sold. And my first knife was sold. I was like, wow. So that's how I started making knives and selling them, was at a gun store. And so from there, I just took that money and I just put it back into knife making equipment.
Right.
So we moved from there to Florida, back to California. I moved to Redding, California, Northern Cal.
Okay. Yep.
And it was a beautiful place for a long time to raise my kids.
Yeah, Redding is awesome.
Oh, it's awesome.
Is that right by Folsom?
North. So Redding
north
is
of Folsom. Okay.
just below Mount Shasta.
Okay, yeah. Because Folsom Lake is awesome. That place is beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's Shasta Lake, there's Whiskeytown Lake. Yep. It was a beautiful place to raise my kids. Yep. And it would get super hot. People don't realize it, but it would be 117 degrees in Northern Cal.
Oh yeah.
Because the heat from the valley, that's where it goes.
Yep.
And that's, you know, I started that's when I really, at that point, you know, I was building houses, I was running the leather business, and, you know, because I had to build myself a house. And because I did that, friends were like, oh man, would you build us one? And, you know, they just took off. So I was making my knives like as a hobby at nighttime. I was, desire. I wanted to get
you were
there.
Opening one door while you closed another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the economy took a crap.
Which there's value to that. You know, there's a lot of gurus out there right now that I feel like I've heard so many times. They're just like, burn the ships, just go, just start, just do this. I'm going to tell you right now, most of those guys, first of all, are a bunch of frauds. Second of all, like, dude, you don't close one door till you open another one, in my opinion. I mean, it's not like you don't just go in. It's this, right?
Yes.
It's slow. And if you do it the right way, you know, you get the experience, you get the hours underneath you, you really create a system. And then, because that's what I did, you know, I didn't leave my career for Official Patriot Gear until Official Patriot Gear was in a place where I was like, all right, I think I can do this. You know, like, I think I can supplement my income.
Yeah, because if you do that, you could close both doors.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think that's a reason why a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, just end up fizzling out, because it's like,
it becomes too hard.
Yeah.
If you're like you said, you close one door, you're opening another. If you come too hard, too fast, close the door behind me, I'm here, you know, make it or fail. You're probably going to fail.
That's right. Yeah.
Because you don't have that support you need.
Yep. That is probably the unpopular opinion in the entrepreneur world, but I'll tell you right now, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm. And I would tell everybody,
oh,
I want to become a knife maker. Okay, fine. Get another job, make money, support yourself, and then start the learning process and
I would say
equipment.
The exact same thing. Anybody says, oh, I want to start a clothing brand. Yeah, do it on the side.
Yeah.
When you get home from your actual job, spend 3-4 hours at night building up a drop ship situation, figure out the ins and outs, like sell it on pre-sale first. I mean, do that first. Get to a point where you have enough income where you can supplement your current and then bounce.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
and that's what I did. I mean, I got hurt more in those years that I was trying to learn after work, running a crew, building house, doing all that, and then coming home, eat dinner. Okay, I'm in the garage working. I got hurt more then than I ever do now.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah,
and I would almost cut fingers off and a bunch of stuff. But what happens is, as the economy, that door was closing behind me because the economy. I had 2 spec houses. I walked out of a title company.
When was this?
2008.
Oh yeah.
So I walked out of one. I made good money, what I thought I would, on one house, and I walked out of the second one with a check for $2,500. And I was kicking my heels up. I was like, oh my God, because I seen it coming, and in the guys I knew, man, they lost a lot of money on different houses. I got out and that was done. But it was, so that year, I mean, I went from like, my taxable income was like 3.25 to the next year was 60. Yeah. It was like somebody shut the faucet off on the income. It was like money stopped. So I got rid of equipment, different things, but what I had was time. And I started making more knives.
Yep.
And as I started making more knives, they were just selling.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about something like knives, right? It's you find a. I'm assuming that that's still a product where even if the economy's crap, you have those people that are collectors that they have money and they'll spend it. Yeah.
I have since I've switched to knife making, even if the economy goes down, sideways, whatever, it has not slowed for me one little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm, talent or wherever I'm at, but the people that can spend and buy what I make,
they're going to buy it.
They're going to buy it because they're unaffected.
Yes. They're the people that have the FU money.
Yeah. And it's, what's funny is the most expensive knives I make, they don't ask me about price.
No, they just buy it.
It's
just add it to the cart.
It'll be, Mr. Wilburn, I don't know what your process is for selling these things, but I would like to purchase this. May I please purchase this?
Yeah.
The price is the last thing they ask.
Yeah, of course.
But otherwise it's like, how much for that knife? Oh, I can't swing that. Do you ever sell seconds or discounts? And I feel you, buddy. I really do. Because, an $800 knife, that's a lot to spend on a knife.
Yeah.
And that's about the cheapest knife I make now. And I remember the first time I made $1,000 knife, I couldn't believe it. I was like running on the ground. I was like, this is crazy. I sold a knife for $1,000. Now I barely make anything under $1,000. But it is what it is. So as that time, and during that time too, I went, man, I've been all over Oregon, Southern California, Montana, Arkansas, different places to learn from different mastersmiths or just, hammer-ins or whatever.
How many mastersmiths are in the country?
Oh, there's probably,
like, is it a predominantly American thing?
It's predominantly American because there's some in France, Belgium, there's a lot in Peru. I mean, not Peru, but in Brazil.
And are they all different styles? Like, is it like an international, you know what I mean? Like, are American knives super different than a French knife?
Yeah, there's a little more because those makers in France, I know both of them. They're very ornate.
Okay.
And it has, you could tell the culture behind, and when you look at the blade, and the same thing when I see the Brazilian knives, they have a specific look and a style that they like to make.
Do you see, sorry, this is going to kind of derail things, but I think it's interesting. Do you think that, because we talk about the world, we talk about society in general, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I feel like we have declined so much when it comes to just like building and architecture and just, like the way things used to look, churches, buildings, things like that. You go to like one of the best trips I've ever been on was literally France. France was the coolest trip. Italy was pretty cool too, but France was awesome. And like the buildings and the churches and all the places that we were able to see in France, they are so ornate. Like they're the craftsmanship and the detail to the sculptures and everything else, just the overall architecture of those countries is still so awesome and is still so like timeless and just, I don't even know how to describe it, but it feels like everything in America is just becoming this bland blob of gray goop. And I wonder if you see that in knives as well.
Yeah, I do. But what's beautiful about this now that it's like a worldwide, brotherhood type of thing, that they share their work. And if you are smart enough to pick up on those nuances of style and how they put something together, I mean, some of them are just ornate and beautiful. Whereas here, what we had was like an industrial revolution, and the renaissance of the forged blade started happening back in the 70s.
Okay.
When they formed the American Bladesmith Society. And from that little group that they weren't super ornate like they are now. They were just, it was like a birth of a industry that was almost dead.
Yeah.
And it started coming out. And then you have guys that bring flair, and you have, and to where it is now today, the talent is just incredible. Like this year in Atlanta, I think there was 3 guys that were given the stamp of mastersmith. And I've seen their work, and their work's beautiful. So it is because of that high standard, 3 chances your lifetime, you bring your bet, all of that has raised the bar so high that even now today, when I became a mastersmith, they told me, like, one of the judges was the president of the American Bladesmith Society at the time, and 6 years, I ain't seen him in 6 years. I go back to the as soon as I walk in. Oh, and let me tell you guys, the best heirloom fit finish I ever seen on a knife was by Mr. Wilburn here. As I come in, I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
good to see you. But that standard got brought because of how I finished. They explained, this is what we want to see.
That's awesome.
Like when I became a mastersmith, the other guy didn't pass. He didn't, the guy that it was 4, whatever. 2 left. The guy left his knives on the table, and they asked me, would you please leave your knives here? We want to show him what we expect a mastersmith set to look like. And I was like,
ooh, that's a sting.
That is a sting.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah.
What are you going to compare it to? My work, I think my work is really good.
Yep.
Like I've had guys come to my shop that have been forged in fire champions.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, would you look at my work? I was like, yeah, bring it in. Let's look at it. And then, I'm seeing this stuff. I'm like, well, first off, I would, this, and I'm critiquing their knives. And I was like, well, that's the way I make them.
You know what's interesting? I actually have a couple knives. And if you're watching this, whoever gave me these, because I don't remember, I'm so sorry. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. But it's probably better that I don't name them because I want you to look at it and tell me what you think. So there's these 2. These are the only 2 knives that I have that are like more, I would say, quality knives, but who knows? I mean, I'm curious what you think of those and what they're like, how they're made. And
well, this one guy, name names either, but when I critique his knives, he says, well, that's the way I make them. I just put his knives, fold the towel back up. Say, here you go. I gotta get to work. He's like, well, don't you want to look at it? I said, I just did.
Yeah, and you answered me by saying
that's the way you make them. So I got to go.
Okay,
work.
so that's how you make them.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah,
keep making them that way.
Yeah,
it's so if I want you to take my time, I'll try to do it as gently as I can. But I will give you some guidance that will. And I, I've helped a lot of guys become journeymen or whatever.
Yeah. I literally don't remember who gave me these, and I feel so bad for it. But I get a lot of gifts, and I don't remember.
This is, it's not bad. I'm sure, hopefully, the edge doesn't look like it held up well, but a lot of guys that get into knife making, I know who made this.
You do?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And he does fair job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
gosh, I can't, I'll have you tell me after, cause I'm going to text him and say, hey, thanks. I know I already said thanks, but I'm going to text him again. And
well, he has been to my shop too.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's not that guy.
Okay.
It was another guy.
Okay.
But yeah, I can tell just by a certain style on here.
Interesting.
Like, I know somebody that does this.
And are those considered Damascus?
No, this is just,
it's just one time. Okay. Steel.
Yeah.
Got it.
Back to it. Old. Do I have my reading glasses?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I can read his logo.
I think the logo on there is, it's probably his, but he also put the Patriot logo on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know who this is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he does a fair job. But it's, it gets...
They've been sitting on this gift shelf of mine for a long time, man. I thought they were awesome when he made them. I gotta freaking remember. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm gonna have Alzheimer's. Knock on wood.
Yeah, this one I don't. Oh, I know this. Yeah, these guys. But, and some of them are just production. They meet a certain dollar amount.
Yep.
And that's where they're at. Whereas I never got hung up into that. It wasn't a matter of.
Did you ever connect with the guy from Montana Knife Company?
Oh, Josh Smith?
Yeah.
Oh, I know Josh. Yeah, I've been to his house, been to Hammer-Ins.
Really?
Yeah,
I've always wanted to meet Josh, man. I see him all over the place, and we have so many mutual friends, and I'm in awe of what he's been able to do with Montana Knife Company. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. He grew that company, but Josh Smith himself, he's a good knife maker.
That's what I've heard.
No, he's stinking awesome.
Yeah.
That would be there's certain makers that I look at when their knives come up in social media or whatever. I'm like, ooh.
Dude, his knives are incredible. Yeah, and I don't even know anything about knives, but every time I see him, I'm like, damn, dude, that's cool looking.
Yeah, that would be the only hit I would give on Josh is, damn it, dude, I used to like see your knives. You know what I mean? Now he don't make as many because he's running a company.
Yeah.
But he's a real good knife maker. Who he learned from was a guy named Rick Dunkerley.
Okay.
And he's a master smith that all he makes is like $10,000 folders.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
So what do you think sets like a Montana knife company apart from other companies, other knife making companies, other knife makers in general? What do you think, like knowing the knife industry and knowing everything you know about it, what do you think sets Josh and Montana apart?
Because, well, he hit the market with a good quality product that you weren't able to get some other places.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to come to, really to market with a good quality skinning knife is where he kind of hit it at first.
Yep.
He was just doing it out of his back of his truck, making production runs. And just when he's got going, I mean, I was teaching at a hammer in at Rick Dunkerley's in 2019 before COVID hit.
Yep. Yeah, because it was right around COVID that I feel like MTC like really took off, right?
Well, yeah, because he had just did a drop and it was like, boom, they sold out. And, and then he shows up and we're like, hey, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
His wife, had
their story's cool. Like,
they came in some money from her. And so it takes money to invest
for sure
into making these.
For sure.
Because you're not doing it yourself. He's hiring companies.
Yep. But even with that money, you got to know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what Josh does.
Yes.
Yeah. Josh himself makes a beautiful kick-ass knife.
Well, I was going to say, it also goes back to selling yourself. I mean, he seems to be very, very good at networking and getting, getting the right people on board. And yeah, it's awesome.
That's kind of, I mean, we're kind of doing that now. I mean, I went through a divorce, so I had to shut down my production company, but then we're going back at it, and you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
I don't care how great a knife.
Yeah. Rocky was telling me a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like I can do this. I have a good crew around me.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting. I got my videographer that does my YouTube videos. I got a social media guy, and then I got another guy that actually sells archery equipment. He goes to shows, and he has all the contacts. So we're you have to have that type of network to get going.
Are you going to start doing trade shows and stuff then?
I will. That's why I'll do Forged in Fire. I'll go to start doing shows. I'm going to go teach. I've been asked to teach, and I never really wanted to teach, or I'll go to hammer-ins or whatever. But now I'm even going to start taking guys into my shop and start teaching.
You should definitely do the trade shows though, man. I'll tell you what, the trade shows are one of the most underrated channels of marketing and sales that I think. I mean, when we started doing shows, events, things like that, it made a massive difference. Because it's just in person, it's not just this only online digital thing. Like, you're making these relationships with people, and they're not going to just buy a t-shirt. They're not going to just buy a knife. They're going to buy 10.
Yeah.
And they're going to be a customer for life, so.
And that's kind of what, Josh was doing at the beginning. He was saying, he was selling retail.
Yep.
And then he goes, but all of a sudden, you got people wants to order 50 or 100 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, you don't make as much because you got to be able to wholesale.
Right.
And his niche was that he was hitting retail pretty good. And so once you get a little bit of money rolling and you turn it back in, then it's okay. Now you can start to roll product.
And then you invested in the marketing, and that's probably,
I think one of his biggest scores and smart moves that he did was he took on a marketing guy to help him, because he knows knives.
Yep.
I'm not too proud to say, I know knives, but I don't know nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to have other people that you can work with. And he's just been phenomenally successful.
Yes.
So, that's a great story.
So I had a good question, and then we'll end with a couple more questions. So what do you think, what would you say to people who, you talked about how you're not willing to do something even if you're getting paid a lot of money for it. You're not willing to put yourself in a place where you are being controlled or whatever. I think that's much, much more than just not wanting to be controlled. What would you say to somebody who has a hard time passing up the money in those situations? Like,
well, it's what's your focus? Are you here for the money? There's other things you can do to make more money than knife.
Mm-hmm.
Knife making, for me personally, I've made other money doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
More money
Yep.
than I'm doing now. But for me, it's the passion. There's something about living life and having satisfaction in myself versus working at a factory or warehouse, or you're on the grind, or that heavy weight of somebody's controlling you. For me, it's freedom on a different level, and this artistic freedom. And there's different things. I don't feel that type of stress that I'm under. Like, you have a boss that's on you and you hate your job, and you got to do it because you got kids to feed, and been there, done that.
Right.
And so for me, it's freedom of an artistic level, instead of just having a paycheck, you know?
Yep.
And it's hard to describe. I mean, a lot of people, I want to get in there and I want to make money, make a living making knives. Good luck. You know, there's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of competition, and you better get really good at it.
Yep.
And that's kind of the deal. Is it took me time to get good at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Even though I had a history, all the stuff I did before prepped me for making knives and doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have that, you know, that really accurate, focused attention to detail what I'm doing.
Right.
And I you know, sometimes if I'm making knives or I have stress, you know, outside noise, I'll make a pocket knife. Man, you got to concentrate when you make one of those. All the times I put a pocket knife back, you know, old slip joint folder or whatever.
Yep.
I might take that thing apart and put it together 40 times. And so for me, it helps me to focus on my creation, what I'm working on. And if you're into it and you're going to make a paycheck and all that, maybe you can. I don't know. There's a lot of guys that start knife making and, you know, they're their biggest collector because they can't sell their stuff because it don't look good. And I'd rather just make something that looks super cool or super good. You know, I never really realized I had a style until I just started focusing on my own creation, what I'm making. Now I got, you know, last time I taught, you know, this master Rick Dunkerley told me, you know, he said the same thing. Focus on the craft of what you're doing. He goes, now and you'll develop your own style. He goes, like Aaron. He goes, I can see Aaron's knife and a wall of knives across the room. I could pick his knife out.
Interesting.
Because I do have my own style.
Huh.
I never thought I would.
Yeah.
I thought I'll be looking like somebody.
What,
a copycat.
what is it? Do you know what it is?
No, but I can show you.
Okay.
I don't know how
That's
I got
so
to what I
interesting.
do. Yeah, but you know, so there's a lot of influence. Like I make a lot of fusion type of knives. I'll make Japanese fusion. I don't make, like some guys can get really hung up on being an original type of, you know, katana, wakizashi, or
Do you ever
whatever.
make swords?
I made a wakizashi before. Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome.
Awesome. But what I do is I take those influences and I make my own influence.
Yeah.
Am I following some traditional pattern? I don't care. What does that mean to me? I'm making me.
Yeah.
And
you're not, I mean, it's like anything else, right? Correct me if you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just making it look a lot better and a lot different.
Yeah. And I'm pouring me into it. If you, like I said, if you like it, buy it. If you don't, so what? It looks cool.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just different things. I like to use a lot of organic material, rawhide on the handles, leather. A lot of people, they'll, you know, like if they do a Japanese type wrap, it'll be silk wrap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever used silk, but I've used kangaroo hide and I've used rawhide and I've used other things in that type of style with my type of look. And it looks good, you know?
Do you have a knife that you've made that you just won't sell?
My first one.
Really?
The first one I made with Corbin Newcomb.
The very first one.
Very first one is in my safe to this day and I will never sell it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he told me, he goes, oh, you're going to sell it? And I was like, no, I won't. I'll never sell this knife. And I haven't.
That's cool.
There was a knife that I made, a Japanese fusion type of knife. I took it hunting for years, killed elk and skinned out, I think 3 elk with that knife. And I just sold it not too long ago because it was so dang cool. Had a wooden sheath and I mean, it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But finally I was like, I got to, because every year I'd like to make me a knife to see how I like a particular style. Maybe it's different than something I've ever made.
Yeah.
I want to use it.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it for sale as, I used it this year. I skinned an elk. Here it is. Kind of cool.
Right.
I'm doing that again this year. So
that's cool.
Yeah. But as far as like knives that I'm not a collector. I don't collect my own knives.
Interesting.
If you collect your own knives, that means you can't sell them. So my stuff I sell.
Okay.
But you know, then again, you can come to my shop and I got 20 really cool looking blades sitting around with no handles because my thing is I like to forge Damascus. Well, you'll see when you come to my shop.
Yeah, I definitely got to come by and see it for sure.
Yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
I got a $4,000 or $5,000 blade sitting there, and I got 15 of them sitting around. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'll get to the point to where I got to finish this one out, you know. But I like making the blades. For me, like I said, it's a passion. It's art and it's a passion.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, cool, man. Anything else you wanna say or you wanna talk about or any?
Well, you know, it's all of it. It's put your heart and soul into it if you're going to do it. Learn and develop the skills. I didn't have these skills of leather making, let's say, you know, but the first time when I made that first knife, I had to make that sheath for it. I went to a Tandy leather store, and I was like, "Hey, does anybody make sheaths around here?" And he goes, "Oh, I do." And I was like, "Oh, how much? $25?" I paid $5 for a sheath. I didn't know. I went in there, I seen the sheath, I paid him his $25, and as I walked out the store, I tossed it in the garbage. Yeah, not in his face. I mean, I waited till I was outside. I was like, "That's crap. I'm not putting my knife in." So what do? Well, I went home and I started learning how to make leather sheaths. And for the first 3 or 4 times I taught at a hammer inn, I'm a mastersmith at this point. It's like, "Would you teach leather?" I'm like, "Dang, man, you don't want me to teach my Damascus or some other aspect?"
Mm-hmm.
It was, "No, you have the best leather around. Would you mind teaching it?" I was like, "Okay."
It's like the same skills and the same level of passion can be applied
to anything
across
really.
The board. I think that's the takeaway from this entire conversation.
Don't settle for mediocre. If you're going to do something, be the best you can do.
Yeah. And understand that those skills are translatable. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
It will across the whole board.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Aaron, thanks, man. It was a great conversation.
My pleasure to have this conversation with you. I hope it can inspire others to.
I'm sure it will.
Develop their skills, knife making, or whatever you're going to do.
I'm sure it will, man. And we'll definitely have to do this again. But this was awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
And my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.